This episode is sponsored by the Sofia Graham Foundation, operating as 222 Muscle the Sofia Graham Foundation, a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization. The mission of the Sofia Graham Foundation is to lift people who feel the weight of the world on their shoulders and provide improved mental health through the pursuit of physical strength. The foundation provides gym memberships, trainings, and home equipment across the United States to those who are dealing with trauma, loss, addiction, and more. Learn more and consider supporting the foundation at 222muscle.com or at sofiagrahamfoundation.org.
Before we begin today's episode, we want to acknowledge that we will be discussing the life and legacy of Sofia Graham, a beloved figure in the bodybuilding community who passed away in July 2021 at the age of 27. As Kelly states on the foundation's website, Sofia was my person, my why, she still is. And this foundation will give me the opportunity to provide for others what she provided to me at my lowest point. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and over the years as a couple we built an amazing relationship, growth in our careers, new business, bodybuilding, and big plans for the future together. We approach this topic with respect, sensitivity, and the intention to celebrate on Sofia's life, her character, and the positive impact she had on her community, while also acknowledging the ongoing work being done in her memory. Our discussion also talks about Kelly, his life before Sofia, and the love he has for Sofia years later. If you or someone you know is struggling with trauma, loss, or mental health challenges, please remember that help is available through various organizations, including the Sofia Graham Foundation and other mental health resources.
Love is the most beautiful feeling in this world. Take care of what you love before it becomes a memory. We get so used to familiar faces that we forget they won't always be there. Slow down and tell them you love them. Nothing is permanent, and that's what makes it precious.
My perspective is going to be a little bit different just because there's not enough space here.
Yeah.
It's all right. If I look fat, it's all right.
I'm excited. Like I said, every one I've ever done, I kind of just let it go where it goes. And I had a blast talking to you the first time. I was like, oh, this will be fun. What are you drinking?
Jocko, yeah. It's the only one that I can have because it doesn't have some of the artificial sweeteners that give me like a bunch of brain fog. Yep. Like Celsius or it's a bunch of them. I used to drink Bum Energy or Nutonic. Yeah. Same thing, great, like nootropics and everything. Mm-hmm. Great for me to like.
The nootropic stuff, it's funny because, even 10 years ago, nobody talked about that. Nobody had any idea, anything like that. And I take usually in the afternoon, there's a company called American Advanced Molecular Laboratories, and they make a drink. It's a powder, and it's a dopamine optimizer. Okay. And it raises your theanine level, and the theanine makes you release more dopamine. And the first time I took it, I was like, this is stupid. This isn't good. And then all of a sudden, about 20 minutes later, so this was last year actually in high school, or when I was working, and I'd work all day, I'd get out, I had to train, but then I was a munchkin in The Wizard of Oz in the play for school. So it was just a long day. Plus I was in prep, and I was like, I'm never going to make it through all this. And about 2:00 every afternoon, I would take that. And the first couple rehearsals before I had it, I'd get there and I'm dragging. And I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be rough. Then all of a sudden I was like, I am locked in on being a damn munchkin. Let's go. Like I was so a huge believer in all that.
Yeah. And the funny thing is I've had enough of these over time that now my brain associates this with work.
Yep. So I
don't want to play video games. I don't want to do something. I want to just.
You click and go. That's pretty cool.
And I mean, it's kind of like Pavlov's conditioning that like over time that just starts happening. Yep. I don't know if I should depend on it, but hell, it's cheap.
Yeah, who cares? And it's not going to hurt you. It's good stuff. That's perfect. So, like you said, it's kind of like flipping a switch and you're going, all right, time to go. So I love it.
I don't have an introduction or anything. I just go right into it.
My thing is, I used to. I love politics and I love debate and I love somebody that disagrees with me without emotion. Like I love to sit and talk about. I love politics, religion, anything that are the controversial subjects. Because you learn something. If you have somebody who can have that argument, debate, talk with you without making it emotional, and I had a student this year, she was in the debate club and she was phenomenal. And she would come in and every Friday they had a different debate. And I said, hey, what's your debate on this week? And it would be, the last one she had was, which is more important, space exploration or deep sea exploration? And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. The Earth's 70% water. We've literally touched like 5% of it. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's political and it goes different ways, but I love it because you learn something, and most people aren't like that. And especially when you go through like social media stuff, it's all F you, I don't know, delete.
Well,
so I kind of just got away from it.
There's two things about that. There's one, the social media part, where it's like you have a screen, you have something to protect you. It's like you don't know exactly who I am. There's that little like
the bear. Yeah. It makes you feel a little safer.
And then going on the debate things that I was listening to an episode with Jocko and Chris Williamson on Wednesday's podcast, and they were talking about how, like in Jocko's opinion, instead of having Space Force, they should have had like Cyber Force.
Yeah.
Something more like psychological warfare, because that's essentially what people, and this is his point, is that people don't mind saying, oh, a missile killed 20,000 people or something. It's like, okay, that's fine. Right. But then when they say social media is changing the way that you're thinking, it's like, whoa, that's too dangerous. And it's true. I mean, you go, what? It wouldn't be too hard for a massive company to just be like, okay, we're not pushing this content, we're pushing this content. Right. Even if you don't want to see it, that's what you're going to be exposed to.
I'm having a huge disagreement. How about that? With all the teachers and everybody in school right now, because Governor Youngkin for next year has banned cell phones in school and completely. So now the kids, when they walk in the school, as soon as the first bell rings, cell phone has to be off and put away. Cannot be out, cannot be anywhere. And the part that I agree, it's kind of like trying to put the horse back in the barn. You probably never should have let it happen, but you went through COVID where we had lockdowns where these kids were forced to be on screens, and they came back from that and it was pretty lenient. And the issue now is you have a lot of kids in a lot of classes that are on their cell phones, that are watching movies, playing games, stuff like that. It's not a cheating thing for the most part. Sometimes it is. But you have a lot of teachers that can't control that. I don't ever have that issue. I tell my kids the first week of school, which will have to change next year, I don't care if your cell phone is out, if it's sitting on your desk and turned upside down or face up, and your mom sends you a text and you do this, I'm good with that. What I don't want is while I'm lecturing or talking to you, you sending messages and playing games or whatever. Now, that being said, at the end of class, there's a half hour of them doing worksheets or projects or whatever. I don't care if you have an AirPod in and you're listening to music and doing what you can do. That's kind of real life. We all do it, So the other issue is I teach nutrition and wellness, and I teach the kids. I'm a career and technical education as CTE is, what I teach. So we're supposed to teach the kids how to survive in the real world. How does the real world work? Well, the real world has cell phones in it, and you're taking this away from them. So I think you need to teach them to use the cell phones. So I have apps that they use to be able to do your BMI and BMR, to be able to put nutrition plans together, And I had one of the admin last year when we weren't supposed to have cell phones out. Well, Mr. Kirk, can't they do it on paper? And I said, well, yeah, if this was 1977, but it's not. Why would they do that, And then my other issue from there is Prince William County, where I teach, and probably all over Virginia, anything AI is blocked. ChatGPT, all of it, you can't get on any of them. And I'm like, do you guys understand? We're missing the boat. On the cell phone, first of all, when I was in high school, teachers would all tell you, you'd say, hey, can I use a calculator for this math problem? No. Why not? Well, you're not always going to have a calculator. And I want to grab my cell phone and go back to my math teacher from 10th grade and go, hey, I got a computer in my pocket every day now, so you were wrong. And I said, they were wrong then and we're wrong now about the cell phones and the AI. And if we don't start teaching these kids how to use artificial intelligence instead of being afraid of it and not using it, they're going to be behind. I live on it, and it's not to do work that I can't do, but it's for ideas. It's to double check things, and I've told my kids, I said, the idea is not to say, write me a paper on Romeo and Juliet. That's the wrong way. The idea is for you to write the paper on Romeo and Juliet, put it into AI and say, correct grammatical errors, that kind of thing. But compare and contrast Romeo's relationship to blah, blah, blah versus so-and-so and tie it into this book and blah. Look at it that way and teach you how to use it. I think this whole thing of just taking everything away, they're gonna be behind. I was at the hospital a few weeks ago with a friend, and all of the doctors, as they're coming in and taking notes on patients, either them or a nurse with them is on ChatGPT, and they log everything on there. This is a level 1 trauma center, and they're logging all of your notes, everything in there. And I asked, the doctor said, well, it's quicker. It comes up with the information, and it doesn't forget. If I put in here that you say, hey, I took a Tylenol 4 hours ago, or whatever it was, I might forget that. ChatGPT is not going to forget that. And it'll go, hey, man, maybe you shouldn't prescribe this or do this, that kind of thing. So we're trying to teach these kids to go out and have careers. You need to teach them to be able to use the tools that are going to be there when they get out. And these kids that are coming in as freshmen and sophomores, when they get out of high school or even college, what in the world is AI going to be like 6 years from now? It's going to be crazy. So I try and keep my mouth shut, but it's hard for me to do because I'm so passionate about it. And all these teachers just stay angry. No, they shouldn't have cell phones. Okay, well, in a perfect world, that'd be great, but that's not what the real world is, Meanwhile, you go to a meeting, there's 200 teachers, and they all have their cell phones out. The hypocritical part, I don't do either.
I don't know if it's a paradox, but like the Dr. Seuss effect. Yeah. It's like Dr. Seuss did what everyone else couldn't do. It's like, you can't make up words to rhyme, except for Dr. Seuss. He was the only exception. It's like, why can't you be the exception? Why does it have to be, this is what we made, you're an exception? That's not right. Yeah. And that's usually because the people who are teaching it themselves have never had the kind of structure that they need in life.
Right.
And then from there, they try to say, this is the world that exists, not the actual world that I have to.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is a lot of these teachers that have been in the school system for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, those 4 walls, that's their world. And, I just started teaching 8 years ago, and I've owned my own businesses, and I've been in sales, and I've traveled, and the real world is very different from what those 4 walls of high school are. So I think that's where the difference in perception comes in. But I stay frustrated. So I'm always like, keep your mouth shut, nope, can't keep my mouth shut. Got to say something.
Yeah.
So
have you ever watched Shawshank Redemption?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that one scene when Red is saying, these walls are funny. First you are afraid of them, then you get used to them. Sooner or later you end up depending on them.
That's
institutionalized.
Yep. And it's the same thing with these. Yeah. So that's my biggest thing with we just need to teach not just these kids, but all of us. When I first started using AI, I was using it like Google. And now, a year into it and using it all the time for everything, I've got 25 different projects and I know what to do and help me. But, and it's completely different and it's only going to get better. So, yeah, sometimes I'm the black sheep of the family at school because I look at things a little bit different.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's a problem. It's like, why not? Like, the only people who are stopping you are the ones who don't want to change. And then at that point, it's like, what's the phrase? That losers focus on winners and winners focus on winning.
Yeah.
Like, you want to focus on me?
Yeah,
great.
go ahead.
It's a waste of your time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like every second you waste on me is the 1 second you can't waste on yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Can't make yourself better, do whatever you need to do. That's true. I never thought about that.
Is that kind of how Sofia was?
Sofia was just a ball of energy. That's the only way I know how to describe her. And the perfect way to think about her right now, so I'm in prep, and prep is 16 weeks, roughly. And when prep starts, that means 2-a-day workouts. So 4:15 in the morning, my alarm goes off so I can get up and go to the gym for round 1 and do cardio and touch up and, make it to school by 7:15. She would get up at the same time. Well, Sofia loved to sleep. I love to sleep. But literally that first day of prep, when that alarm goes off at 4:15, boom, her little feet hit the floor and she was 100 miles an hour. And I'm still laying in bed going, oh, maybe 15 more minutes, hit the snooze, no, let's go. You got to do it. She was so focused and so determined on anything she put her mind to. And it came through in her personality, but in a very positive way. So I actually have I have 2 alarms set, one at 4:15 and one at 4:30. And the one at 4:30, when it goes off under the alarm, it says, get your ass out of bed. Sofia would have already been up and doing cardio. So, it's just a nice little reminder for me. But she was just an absolute, ball of energy. The first time I met her, I owned a powerhouse gym and she came in as, looking for a membership, and I wasn't there. So she didn't take a tour. She told one of the other front desk people, I'll be back. I'll come see him later. So I came in the front desk. I goes, hey, there was some cute little girl came in here a little while ago looking for a membership. I was like, oh, good. You sell her to her? No, she only wanted to talk to you. And I said, okay. So a little while later, she comes walking in. I said, hey, she says, hi, I'm Sofia. I want to talk about getting a membership. I said, okay, let me show you around. So I'm showing her around. And I'm showing her leg press and curls, and this does your bicep and blah, blah. And she's acting dumb as could be. Oh, I've never seen this. I didn't know this. Come to find out, she had already been working out, knew all about it. She was playing the game, just the same way I was. And she joined the gym, and we started talking, I don't know, for a week or two, maybe a couple weeks. And I asked her if she wanted to go out. I said, we should go out. Let's go get lunch or go hang out. Oh, okay, that'd be great. Let's do it on Saturday. And I'll never forget, I was telling these two other women that were on the treadmill, I was like, hey, I got a date this weekend. They were like, really? And I said, yeah. I said, I really don't know what to do. I said, little 21-year-old young girl. I said, she's, 25, almost 25 years younger than me. I don't really know what to do with somebody that young. And both of these two girls laughed and they go, we know what to do with somebody. And I said, oh, Lord, okay. So that was kind of the beginning of it. But so, I have changed. I've changed because I've had to, but I'm very conscious of who I am because of her. I try and make her personality come out in things that I do, if that makes any sense, just because she was such a huge influence. And what boggles my mind is I will go to different shows around bodybuilding shows around the country, and I'll be walking, through the convention center or whatever it is, and randomly somebody will come up and go, hey, you're Kelly, right? Yeah. Or you were dating Sofia or blah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I met her at a show in 2020 or 2019 backstage. She was so nice. She helped me with my posing and this and that. I don't know this person, in the world. And they're like, she was just so amazing. I'm sorry to hear what happened. Like, she just had an impact, everywhere she went. When she first passed away, over the next couple weeks, every place I would go, somebody would make a comment. And that's not just like friends and gym and family. I go to an all-you-can-eat steakhouse. We lived at this place. I walk in, I get a table, I sit down, and I'm sitting there and I order my food. And finally, about halfway through the meal, one of the waitresses comes over and she sits down and she goes, hey, can I ask you a question? And I said, sure. She says, where's that beautiful wife of yours that's usually here with you? And I said, actually, not good. I said, something happened. And she goes, oh my God, we knew it. We were back in the kitchen, and when you came in by yourself, we could just tell that something was off, and we knew, but we just looked forward to you guys coming in here. And I was like, this is a damn steakhouse. Who remembers that, right? And then a few days later, I walk into 7-Eleven by our house, and there's a guy in there, and it's probably 1:32 in the morning, and he's Indian. And he asks, he apologizes for, what's going on. And he says, is she going to be cremated or buried, or what's she going to do? And I said, she's going to be, cremated. We're trying to put the plans and stuff together now. Why? And he says, well, I'm Hindu. And he said, would you be interested in hearing what we believe? Hell yes, I want to hear it. I've never had a conversation with this guy other than, paying for my drinks and stuff like that. And he goes, she was just so amazing. She was always so friendly when she came in here. And I'm like, it's 7-Eleven. I spent for probably an hour and a half in the middle of the night standing here talking to the guy at 7-Eleven about the Hindu religion and how I need to make sure that I take some of her ashes and go to the beach, and that she needs to be grounded. My feet have to be in the water. And you release, and I was amazed by all of this and so grateful that somebody who really didn't know me or didn't know her, but she had an impact on and wanted to share that with me. Like, that meant so much to me. So I just really think about that in kind of everything that I go through now, trying to bring out a piece of her, or what would she think, or how would she look at this, So in that part, it's definitely, changed my life.
Why do you think she was like that?
I don't know. She was just the happiest damn person ever, When it all happened, I remember one of her friends was contacting me. Well, I need to know what happened. Well, nobody knows what happened. She had a heart attack. We don't know why. The autopsies, nothing showed anything. And it's one of those things. I had spoken to a top, what do you call them?
Mortician?
No. Who does the
coroner?
Yeah, but anyway, so
the person inspecting.
Yes. And, he said sometimes these things just happen and we never figure it out. He goes, typically somebody young and healthy comes in, we'll spend a long time on the body and we'll look for stuff and try and figure it out. But he said, I got a 17-year-old kid in Ohio right now, collapsed on the football field, died, can't figure out why, have no idea why. He goes, sometimes you just don't know. So I had people that were like, well, we need to know what happened. What happened? Was it this? Was it that? And at first I really wanted to know, I need to know this. I need to know. Then I thought about it. You could come back and say she was a heroin addict. And at this point, who cares? She was the happiest damn heroin addict that I ever met. So what's it matter? It doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring her back, So it just kind of really hit me. She was who she was. So, there's no replacing that. There's no bringing it back. I think she was adopted from the country of Georgia when she was 1. Her mom and dad adopted her. Her mom spent, I want to say, close to a year going back and forth to Russia and in and out of Georgia and getting her from like an orphanage. Georgia is in a constant state of war and fighting and different stuff going on. So that was going on when she was adopted and brought back here. And her mom and dad are just amazing and did an amazing job with her. And, an only child. And you'd think, only child, you're going to be spoiled and all the typical. And she was nothing like that, just nothing like that. Smart, sense of humor. And just, like I said, the biggest thing was a big heart, big heart with everybody. So I love the fact that she made that impact everywhere, which is kind of what I hope to do, at this point.
Is it the impact that she made on everyone, was it because she helped people without any expectation of reciprocity? That she didn't expect anything in return for what she was doing?
To an extent, like when it came to bodybuilding, she would help anybody do anything that she knew or learned or knew because she loved the sport and she loved the people, She was a dental hygienist. Pediatric dental hygienist. And she also worked for a company where she taught future dental hygienists. Kind of the same thing there. She loved what she was doing. So she loved being able to help people and teach people and, do that kind of thing. But she was just wide open to knowledge herself and learning things. When I met her, I'd been in the bodybuilding industry for, 2 decades, something like that. It had been 19 years since I'd competed. And she was trying to get into it, had done 1 or 2 shows. And I remember a couple of my friends going, oh, she just wants to get to know you because she wants your contacts and learn. But I was like, we're good. Let me, see what's going on here. And she was just a sponge, and I used to tell her, I'm like, do you realize at, 26, 27 years old, the amount of information and knowledge that you have that I didn't get until I was probably 40? Most people your age have no idea the stuff that we're talking about, nor do they have the contacts or know the people in the industry that you do. Like she literally could, go from a local show and bottom people all the way up to the very tip top. And they're all people that she had met through me and what we did. So I think all that just kind of shaped it.
So she had a purpose and she wanted to share with everyone else.
I go round and round with purpose and religion and, the whole 9 yards, but yeah, I think she was put here for a reason, and I don't necessarily know what that was. When, I had told you about some of the stuff that happened to me prior to meeting her. My nephew and niece in 2007 or 8, I'm trying to think now, whatever it was, were 11 and 12 years old, and they were murdered by their stepdad. I didn't know Sofia at the time. I had owned a gym, and it was probably the first real tragedy that I had ever experienced in my life. Up until then, life had been pretty easy. If I wanted a job, I went and got it. If I wanted to make money, I went and made it. In high school, I was senior class president and captain of the wrestling team, baseball team. College was easy. Everything went good. A great upbringing. My parents and family were fantastic. So that was really the first kind of tragedy that I had to deal with, and I didn't know how to deal with it. 2, 3, 4 months after that, my mom passed away. And we're pretty sure because she needed to go take care of her grandkids. They needed her. 30 days after that, my dad was diagnosed with a stage 4 glioblastoma, a brain tumor. And they told him he probably had a month, 2 months to live. Well, my dad made it 13 months. He kicked some ass. But lost him. So in a period of a year and a half, my nephew and niece were murdered. My mom passed away. My dad passed away. The business we had was was just, really struggling. And everything was just a mess. And I remember at that point, to kind of circle back where I was going, thinking, why the hell is all this happening? What's the point of all this? Why is this happening? What's going on? So fast forward to a few years later when Sofia walks into my life, and my life had fallen apart. I'd lost the gym not long after her and I started dating. I lived in my car at a rest stop. I was done. I had no money. I owned nothing. I lost everything I owned. I remember sitting in my car and I had bought a can of tuna at Walmart. And I go, I don't even have a fucking fork. Like, how did I go from kind of everything to not owning a fork? And that's kind of when it hit me. So when I look at my relationship with her and, her coming into my life from a big standpoint, what I see and what I thought was I went through all of that other crap so she could come into my life and I could appreciate her. And I looked at things different. And that happened because of this, or this happened because of that, I guess is a better way to put it. And that's what I always thought. And her and I just, we hit it off. We were building this little empire, and we started doing healthy keto and we started a business trying to teach people how to eat right and train and do keto. We were doing YouTube videos. She was, we're trying to buy a tiny house. We just had all these plans and everything was kind of falling together. She was competing, got me back into competing. And I just looked at the overall picture of all of that other tragedies and bad stuff happened to get me prepared for her to come into my life. That's what I thought. And then to lose her, that's a gut punch. And I sat back and went, well, guess I was wrong about that. Those things didn't happen to bring her into my life, because why the hell did she get taken away? Again. So, I don't know. From a grand scheme of things, I like to think that that's why she was put into my life. I'm thankful for it. I wouldn't trade it for the world, for the heartache that I have. And we weren't together for that long, 7 years. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's made me who I am. And we're coming up on 4 years, and I bawl my eyes out every single day, every day. Don't care who knows, don't care who sees. I might be walking down through the grocery store and see her ice cream. I might be in the middle of the gym. Like, it just doesn't matter. Sometimes it's nothing. And sometimes it's a little tear, and that's about it. And sometimes I'll sit in my car and just sob, and I don't fight it. But I don't think I'll ever know the reasons why. I don't think I'll ever know the reasons why she was put in my life or why she was taken away. But like I said, I think I just, from a grand scheme of things, I try and look at it as I've got to turn it into something. I've got to do something with it. And I always think, how would she want me to react to all this?
Do you mind going back to the day that, the night before, and the message that she sent to you before she died?
Yeah. So, we would always train together, and we did everything together. I've had 1,000,001 girlfriends, most of who I'm still friends with and still talk to, but our relationships were all very different. Sofia was the first person I was ever with that we worked out together, we cooked together, we ate together, we traveled together. It just was. And not because we had to, just because it worked. There was nobody else I wanted to do it with, So it was very different from that standpoint. If you had told me a year before I met her that I was going to meet some girl and that was going to be my workout partner, I'd be like, oh, hell no. I like working out with Jared, my big, 320-pound black buddy, and he's who I work out with. I'm not training with her, So we used to laugh about that. And they're like, man, you kind of switched up workout partners. You made a big difference. And I'm like, yeah, sure did. So, but it just worked, with her. And again, not because it had to, but because it just did. So her mom had come into town. This was kind of the end of COVID, and she hadn't seen her mom in about a year. And she was getting ready to go down to Florida in a month to go see her. And her mom contacted her on Monday and said, hey, I'm coming into town. Let's get together Thursday, Friday, and I'll go back Saturday. She's like, all right, well, I'm working a show with Kelly on Saturday. She says, Mom says, I'm going to get a hotel. You can come stay with me. We'll go shopping. We'll go out to dinner. We'll hang out and all that. So Wednesday night of that week, we trained, and That was the last time I saw her, I guess, was Thursday morning when we got up to leave. She went to go to work and go see her mom, and I went to work and talked to her all day Thursday. Her and her mom went out to dinner Thursday night. Friday rolls around, kind of the same thing. They go out to dinner. They were eating some Italian food. I had gotten home. We were working a show the next day, and the people that we work the show with are two women that are close friends of mine. They helped me with the gym. They were good friends of Sofia and I, and I'm still close to them now. And everybody at that show was just part of our group. It was kind of our family. And that was one of the things about the age difference, just to kind of go back and throw that in, is when we first started dating, we were both worried about the age difference. What's everybody going to say? What's everybody going to think? Nobody cared. My family, is she good to you? Yeah, she's the best ever. Then who cares? My friends, we love her. Why don't you? I do. What do you mean? I just want to make sure, So it didn't matter. And in the little bodybuilding world, nobody cared because we all talked the same thing. It made no difference. So anyway, this Friday night, I went out to dinner with a couple of the judges, some of the people that were working the show the next day. And I had just competed at Masters Nationals 2 weeks before this, maybe 3 weeks before this. I had not been on stage in a bodybuilding competition in 19 years. So Sofia, as I said, was competing and going through and becoming a pro figure competitor and just, doing phenomenal. We were traveling and she was just really rising in the sport quickly. And out of the blue, this is 10 weeks before everything happened. She says one night, she goes, "You need to get back on stage." I said, "I'm not getting on stage. I like being fat and happy. I don't have no desire." And we were getting ready to go to a posing seminar, like with all the judges and top people in the organization. And she goes, "All right, well, I'll leave it." Well, we get to this posing thing and we're sitting around and we're talking to everybody. And she tells my buddy Rod, who's one of my closest friends now, and Gary, who's one of the heads of the organization. She goes, "Hey, why don't you guys tell Kelly he needs to get his butt on stage again?" And they were like, "Yeah, why don't you get on stage?" I'm like, "I am not getting on stage." I said, "I have no desire to go take some third place trophy. I got plenty of those. It's been 19 years. I'm good just pushing you." She goes, "I don't think you would. Let me show them what you've got." Of course, they start pushing me. I wait till everybody leaves. I strip down. I'm in my drawers and I'm like, hit a couple shots, No, right, exactly. See? And it felt as bad as it felt now. It felt the same way for me then. And both of them go, "You could get ready for Masters Nationals." I said, "Well, when's that?" 9 weeks. "You think?" "Yeah." I said, "All right, how about this?" I told Rod, I said, "You go home and put a diet together for me. I'll go home and put a diet together for me. And if we're on the same page, I'll do this." Okay. So anyway, long story short, we put it together. We were equal. We were there. I had competed 2 weeks before this Friday night. I had competed at Masters Nationals. It was in Orlando. So Sofia and I had gone down there. I competed. I took second. First time I'd been on stage in 19 years, and I took second. What that told me was she was right. It wasn't third. I was that close to winning my class. And I just had no idea. But she believed in me. She knew it. She saw something in me that I didn't see. She got everybody else to see something that I didn't see. And she was right. So it was one of the best times we ever had. The show itself was fantastic in Orlando, but we rented a car. We went to Daytona. We cruised around Florida. We just absolutely had a blast, So that being said, I was still pissed off that I was second place and not first. Proud of myself, but nobody's happy with second, And that Friday night, I'm sitting at dinner with all the judges. She's at dinner with her mom. And I was telling one of the judges, what do you think? And he goes, "With a couple tweaks here and there and little stuff that you need to do, you could win the whole thing." And I said, "You mean win my class?" And he goes, No, you could win the overall." And I said, "Really?" "Yeah." So I leave dinner, I go home, and Sofia and I are supposed to meet the next morning at like 7 a.m. to get ready for the show and, work and do our thing. And her and her mom had gotten home from dinner and Italian food. And she's texting me back and forth and sending me pictures of dinner and her outfit and what she was wearing and all. And she said, "How was dinner with everybody?" And I said, "It was good." I said, "Let me tell you what some of the guys said." And I told her exactly. I said, "Well, this is what they think. And they really think that I can put things together for next year and I might be able to win the overall. And her text message to me was, baby, I love you. You know I believe in you and support you. Do whatever you have to do to go out there and win the whole fucking thing next year. And I was like, God, that was so freaking motivating to me. And Sophia's not a big cusser. I mean, she would cuss, but it wasn't like not for And it just hit. And I talked to her one more time, probably 15, 20 minutes later, and she went to bed. That was about 10:30 at night. And about 12:30, my phone rang, and it was her mom telling me, what was going on. And that phone call, I have serious PTSD, which, everybody thinks PTSD, you've had to gone through a war and this and that, and everybody can have their own. And mine is the phone ringing in the middle of the night. That's how I was told my nephew and niece were murdered. That's how my mom passed away. And that's how the phone call was with Sofia. So if my phone rings at 12 o'clock at night, you better damn sure not be calling me with bad news, because my heart will start racing. I sweat. Like there's nothing ever good comes in the middle of the night, And I forgot where I was going with that, but that was the last phone call and the last text message that I had from her. And I still look at that. We use an app called Marco Polo, and it's video voicemail. I probably have 200 messages from her, video messages from her. Thank God, because I watch them all the time. And when everything first happened, I was like, man, I have all these Marco Polo messages. I'm always going to be able to hear her voice. I'm always going to be able to see her. People always say when you lose somebody, boy, I just wish I could hear them laugh. I wish I could hear them. So I went back and I started going through these messages, and I was like, oh, I hope I find one that says, baby, I love you, and blah, 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 like this big, right? And there was one or two of those. I have one where she's at her mom's house and she has a Wonder Woman shirt on that I bought her, and she's down in Florida. Her mom lived in Florida. And she just says, I love you and I miss you. And I love that one because I still watch that all the time. So there's a few of those. But the ones that I love are what most of them are. Hey, babe, I just left the office. I'll be at the gym in 15 minutes. Let's do, hamburgers and salad tonight or something. Can't wait to see you. Hope traffic's not bad. Oh, man, I got to hurry up. I got to pee. All right, love you, bye. Like stupid shit. And that's what I love, because those were the messages that were her. In the morning, she would go to Planet Fitness, crappy little gym. I would go to a different Planet Fitness, both on our way to work, and then we would meet up at a different gym at night. I have more messages from her, and she's on the elliptical, and she's going, and you could see that she's on the elliptical and sweat, and it's 5:15 in the morning, and it's, hey, babe, it's just got like 15 more minutes of cardio. Man, PF, Planet Fitness, she goes, man, PF is fucking lit this morning. And I'm thinking, and I'm looking at this looking around my Planet Fitness, there's nobody there, right? And then she goes, I'm just fucking with you. There's nobody here. And she'd show me the phone around the gym, and there's nobody there. And I love those, because that was her. That was her. And those are the messages. So it's funny, because I thought, oh, I want these, baby, I love you. And no, that wasn't her. I mean, we were, everybody's mushy at some point, but that's not what I really needed. What I really needed was her. Oh, I'm sitting in traffic. These stupid people can't freaking drive. I got to pee. As soon as I get there, let's get a protein drink or an energy drink and go, blah, blah, blah. Just that kind of crap. Hey, this weekend, so-and-so. Hey, she tell me about her boss. Dr. Hahn said this and that and this. So that's the stuff that I still go back to and, and look at and love. But I try not to go back to that last night. That was kind of where we started. I try not to go back to that last night very often. I'd rather go back to all the other days, in between. Randomly, the picture that she sent me will pop up, and I'm like, oh. And, of course, I'm zooming in. She didn't look sick. Just doesn't look, and then you start questioning yourself. What could I have done? And that's normal. That's human nature. Is there something I should have done? Could I have saved her? Did I know this? You can't do that. And there's not. But it's normal, and it's, and it's human nature, and it's just part of what you do. But I try not to go back to that night too much. Like I said, if the phone rings in the middle of the night, instantly I am transported, back there. But short of that, it was an amazing, her text message that she left me and just everything she said at the end was amazing, but kind of try and stay away from there as much as I can.
Can you tell me about the dumbbells? Because it ties into what you're talking about.
I guess about November. So this all happened at the end of July. That November, I was having lunch with a buddy of mine, one of my best friends. And we were talking about how I was doing, what was going on. I said, Dave, I said, I want to do something in Sofia's honor. And he's like, well, what? And Dave is an entrepreneur, owns businesses, super successful and a good friend. And he goes, well, like what? Why don't you start a business? And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I don't know. Let's make energy drinks. There's 9 million of those, Well, what about, creatine? What about t-shirts? I mean, we're going through all this stuff. And I was like, that all just sounds like crap, like a bunch of Temu shit that anybody could sell, like what? That doesn't do anything for me. And he goes, okay, well, what did Sofia do for you? And I said, honestly, she believed in me when nobody else did. And he goes, there's your business. Fuck does that mean? What do you mean there's my business? What kind of business is that? And he's like, you create a business where you believe in other people when they don't believe in themselves. And I went, oh, shit. Okay, let's figure this out. So we really started, brainstorming and scheming. And that's where I came up with 222 Muscle, the Sofia Graham Foundation. And that's the foundation that we own. We're a 501c3 mental health nonprofit, and we are the only mental health nonprofit that I know of that teaches mental health through physical strength. I have applied for grants, and the problem when you're looking like at grants and stuff like that is they either focus on all mental health or all physical health. So you want to build a playground? Boom, here's 5,000 grants. You want to work on mental health? Boom, there's nothing that combines the two, So what we do is we try and provide gym memberships, personal training, nutrition advice for anybody going through a tragedy or trauma where that gym membership might save their life. It did mine. When I was living in my car at the rest stop, we were no longer working out, and I had a buddy of mine that owned Gold's Gym in Manassas. I'd known him for 20 some years. I worked for him back at Gold's corporate back in the day. He and I are talking. He says, hey, sorry to hear about the gym. Where are you working out now? And I said, oh, I'm not. I can't afford a membership. Living in my car. I didn't tell him that, but I just said, I can't afford a membership. And he goes, I'll give you a membership. And I said, seriously? And he goes, I'll give you and Sofia both a membership, but I'm only going to do it on one condition. I said, what's that? He said, you promised me that your ass is in here every day working out. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. I'm there. And it harkened me back to owning Powerhouse Gym myself. I remember there was a guy that came in one day that was a plumber, and he came in to cancel his membership. He was there every single day. And I said, why are you canceling? What's going on? He goes, oh man, I got laid off. And I said, okay, why are you canceling your membership? I can't afford the $30 a month. I can't do this. I'll be back when I get a job. And I go, you know what? I'm going to comp you your membership until you get a job. I said, you need to be in here. I know what that's like to lose your job. And, really, are you serious? And I said, yeah. My thought was it would probably take a month or two, or maybe I'd end up comping his membership forever and he'd get a job and never tell me. No, 2 weeks later, he walked in with a guy that he was now working with at his new job, and his wife, signed them both up for memberships, couldn't wait to tell me that he got a new job and thank me for doing what I did. He was like, that just made such a difference. So I felt that when my buddy Bob gave us this membership, I was like, okay, I got to use this. So Sofia and I got up the next morning, 4:30, we started going to the gym together, and it sucked. I was 226 pounds and fat and high blood pressure and out of shape and just 37 chins. I mean, it was miserable. Felt horrible about myself and looked horrible. It was awful. And 6 months down the road, my physical started getting better. I started, brushing your teeth and you'd see in your bicep and look at myself in the mirror. And little by little, as my physical got better, I realized my mental got better too. And I was like, oh, there's something to this. So that kind of ties into to the whole foundation part. So when I decided to start this foundation, I wanted it named after her to start with. And I had somebody say, well, why are you going to name it after her? That's, fine for all of her friends and people that know. And I was like, no, this isn't just for them. I said, you know who Adam Walsh is? Yeah. And I said, right. It's dad that ran, what the hell was the show that was on for 20 years with missing kids? His son was abducted when he was 8 years old back in the 80s. I said, it's now 2020 and everybody still knows who, Adam Walsh is. And it's the Adam Walsh Foundation. And they look for missing children and stuff like that.
What's like a Amber Alert?
Yeah, exact same thing. Yep. And I was like, so that's this. I said, I want her name and her attached to it because I want to tell her story. I want to talk about her. I want to tell our story, and I want to keep her alive, so that way. So that's where the end of the foundation came from, the Sofia Graham Foundation. The 222 was completely different. So when I was homeless, we had a good friend, Sherry, she was a member of mine at Powerhouse and just became Sophia and I's closest friend, one of our closest friends. Sherry had a condominium that I was living in, spare bedroom with her. She gave me a room I could stay in for a while. It flooded. Well, when it flooded, the insurance company put her up in the Hilton or something down the road, okay? And it was a suite. And of course, she didn't tell them, hey, I got somebody living with me. They're like, they give her a suite. It's got a bedroom and a pull-out sofa and all this kitchen and you name it. She goes, well, you might as well come here and stay too. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. This is fantastic. So I moved my one bag of crap into the hotel, right? The very first night I'm there, Sophia gets out of work and she texts me and she goes, hey babe, I want to come see you and Sherry at the hotel. And I said, awesome, come on. She goes, all right, I'll be there soon. And I said, sounds good. When you get here, just come on up. We're in room 222. And her response back to me was, okay, sounds good. 222. Is that on the first floor? And I wrote her back, that's not on the fucking first floor. It's 222. It's on the second floor. 122 would be on the first floor. And she was like, whatever. It could be on the first floor. And it turned into this huge thing. Sherry and I are hysterical, about to pee our pants laughing. She gets there and says, you guys are wrong. I know it could be. We had a buddy that was a firefighter, and he goes, actually, sometimes 222 is on the ground floor because 122 is like a basement. We have to deal with that sometimes. So technically, she's right. I'm like, what? F all you people. No, she's not. So it became a huge thing. And after that, 222 just kind of made it as our number. It would pop up in random places. We would talk about it, but we always told that story was 222. So I was like, you know what? I like that. 222 is an angel number. And it's talking about an angel that's looking over you and taking care of you and all that. So it really just fit to go with the foundation because we had that link and we had that story. And then we each had one of these dumbbells that a friend of ours owns a company, Brent's Bling, and they make these. And she had one and I had one and we wore it every day. I've never been a jewelry guy. I never wore anything other than, my Clash ring or whatever. And started wearing this. So when everything happened and I started putting the foundation together, I ended up wanting something I needed a logo. So I took the two dumbbells and I took hers and I opened one of the ends up and then the other end up and I put her ashes inside and I locked it and I sealed it. And then I took it to school and the guy that runs the welding department at my high school welded it and made not a cross, but at least an X, with it. And then that became the logo for the foundation. So I wear it everywhere. I don't wear it to the gym. I don't wear it to bed, but it's pretty much always with me. But the logo at least is. And I have more people. It's I'll be in McDonald's. Not that I eat McDonald's. I'll be in McDonald's and somebody go, oh man, I like your necklace. And if somebody asks, that's my cue. I go, you know what? Now I got to tell you the story. This is, who I am. This is what I do. And it's led to me being able to get business. It's led to people just having full conversations with me. It's fantastic. But for me, it just, she's close. If something's going on and I'm stressed or it's quiet, I find myself kind of reaching up and, and grabbing it and talking to her, which I do out loud constantly anyway. But that's kind of where the foundation came from. And I didn't know where it was going to go. I still don't. It's still growing. But my idea was we'll give out a few gym memberships and that'll kind of be it. It's taken off since then. Just, I don't know, probably 6 months before everything happened with her, I had talked about going through John Maxwell, the leadership company, and met with a guy and kind of told him my story of the kids getting murdered and my mom and my dad and losing the gym and living in my car. And now Sophia and I are putting this whole empire together. And this is what we're doing. I love empire. And putting this whole thing together, And he was like, man, this is great. Well, it was expensive. It was $8,000, $9,000 to be able to go through this. It's going to take you, 10 months. And I just decided the timing wasn't right. And Sophia was like, you should do it. Nah, I'll worry about it later on. Fast forward to 2 years later, I guess, and everything had happened. And I put together this foundation and I'm running this and we're giving out memberships and I'm, doing little stuff like that. And I was telling my story to the kids at school. I am an open book. The first month of school, the kids hear everything about me, and they know every story. They know everybody in high school that I went to. They follow Sofia's Instagram and Facebook page. Like, they just know everything. Well, I'm an open book because I want them to know what I've been through and who I am, and that they can go through crap shit and, you know, still make it through on the other side too. So I'm telling my story, and this was the second year that I had told my story, and it just hit different. It was emotional, but it wasn't bawling my eyes out emotional. It was more of a powerful emotional. I connected with a lot more kids. I had a kid come up to me after the class, and he was like, "Mr. Kirk, I just want to thank you. My dad was killed in a drive-by." Okay, I didn't grow up with that. That's not something I had. He goes, "I can just really relate. I wanted to appreciate it. You just seem like you're so strong and blah, blah, blah. And to know that you go through the same thing I do." So I was like, you know what? I got to do something with this. So I called my guy back at Maxwell. Hadn't talked to him in a couple years. Texted him actually back. He texts me immediately. "Kelly, hey, good to hear from you. Yeah, let's get this thing moving." He said, "I cannot wait. You and Sofia have the greatest story. Can't wait to get you on board and get you out telling this story." Well, he knew the old story. And I text him back and I said, "Actually, my story's changed." And he calls me. And I told him, and he was as devastated as could be. And he was like, you got to be part of this. So I raised the money through the foundation, got certified in John Maxwell, did it as quick as I could, went to Orlando, graduated, and now have brought the leadership business in under the 501c3. So the idea is to be able to teach leadership to companies, youth groups, schools, churches, businesses, whatever it is, but not your typical leadership. I do go through John Maxwell's book, The 15 Laws of Growth, but it's the growth part of leadership. And growth can be anything. You know, I tell the kids when I teach growth in the beginning of the year, growth could be academically, it could be socially. Maybe you don't have any friends or you want more friends or better friends. It could be relationships with your parents, your teachers. It could be away from drugs. It could be taking better physical care of yourself. You know, when businesses, growth can happen. I worked for so many sales businesses where you were 0 to 0. We had monthly quotas. So on the 28th, your numbers are great and you're a freaking hero. And the boss says, "Man, you're great." And on the 1st, "Where's your sales?" "Jesus, dude, it's like 12 hours after the 1st of the month." And you went 0 to 0. And that was hard. And from a growth standpoint, that was really tough because you just got your legs swept out from under you because the month ended, you know. So I try and teach that, you know, sales teams sometimes are looking for growth, and it's not necessarily they need to go read some book. They just need to kind of refocus and know this is what's going on. This is okay, you know. So I try and teach growth when you didn't think it was possible. And that's what was, I guess, what I learned, because when I sat in my car, living in my car at a rest stop, and I was literally, no exaggeration, done. I was ready to eat a bullet. I was done. I didn't think growth in any way, shape, or form was possible. And Sofia believed in me, and she just, "Baby, you can do this. You know, we figure this out," and blah, blah, blah. She was more thrilled than anybody. I started substitute teaching. My mom was a substitute teacher. Never in a million years thought I would go work at a school. I'd been in sales and own my own businesses. So to go someplace and have set rules and set times for 7-8 hours a day, not something I'd ever thought that I would be part of. So I got in there and I started substituting, and I loved it. And I had a job offer to go run 18 Subway restaurants, and good money, good job. And I started working at Subway part-time after school. I told the guy that was the CEO, I said, "I can't leave these kids high and dry. I'm teaching 9th and 10th grade English." I said, "I got to finish up the year with them. Their teacher got fired, so I got to finish up the year, but I'll start with them." So the last 2 months, I would get out of school and I would go to Subway every day. I hated it. Oh my God, I was the worst freaking sandwich maker ever. I remember the very first sub I made, I'm slopping all this crap on it. I'm trying to fold. It was this old white lady, and she's looking at me and shit's falling off the bread, and I'm trying to shove the onions on there and fold it. And she looks at me and she goes, "Are you new, sweetie?" And I go, "Yes, ma'am. This is I just started." And she goes, "It'll get better. I don't care if it's messy." And I was like, "Okay." And I'm like, I suck at this job. This is horrible. Now that wouldn't be what I was doing, you know, if I had taken the job, but they wanted me to learn from the ground up, which I appreciated. So I ended up two of the teachers at school, I was telling them this, and she goes, well, why don't you just teach? I said, I don't want to be a teacher. Why? And I go, I don't know. Because I don't? Because I've never thought about being one? She's like, but you're so good here and the kids love you. And this was a long-term job. So it wasn't like subbing and bouncing around the school. I'd been in the same place for 6 months, same kids, running my own curriculum and all. And I was like, well, I do look forward to coming in here every day, and I don't look forward to going to Subway every day. Let me look into this. So I found out I could get a different type of license. So the licensure is a professional technical license. So it's basically being an expert in whatever your field is. So that's how I got a license in family and consumer science to be a nutrition teacher with my expert there. So Sophia was so freaking proud of me for being a teacher. And I still, one of her good friends, Dominique, I talk to all the time, and Dominique's grandfather was my vice principal in high school. If that tells you how far back.
What's this, like the 1750s?
Yeah, about that. Yeah. Well, one room classroom, K through 12, all of them there. And her mom was a teacher, and she just tells me all the time, she's like, Sophia was so freaking proud of you being a teacher. She loved that. I don't know why, but she loved me being a teacher. She loved me coming home and telling stories, prom and homecoming and the football game. Like, she just loved it. So it was, I guess from a growth standpoint, I never in a million years thought that would be where my growth would go. And when I lost her, I just thought my growth stopped again. I just went from losing my nephew and niece and the gym and living in my car, and I got her and we're building all this back. I can't make food videos anymore. Who the hell is going to hold the camera and laugh at my stupid ass jokes? That's what she did, And I just thought my growth stopped. So when I started this foundation and I went through Maxwell and I started reading some of the books, I was like, no, this is okay. And what I tell people now is, as I said, I cry every day and I'm still grieving. I will grieve for the rest of my life. People say, oh, it gets easier. No, it doesn't. You learn how to live with it, And the loss from your person is extremely different from any other loss. I lost my nephew and niece. That's an 11 and 12-year-old with a bullet put in their head. That's a hard thing to see. I saw it. I've lost my mom. I've lost my dad. I've lost my dog. I've lost my brother. I lost a nephew. Those are all horrible losses, and you deal with those. But to lose your person, the person that is your why, the person that you do everything with, is a completely different level. And I don't care if you've known them 5 minutes or 50 years.
Is that because you were building a new life with her?
I think so. And I was building, to me, I was building the life that I was always supposed to have. It just took me that long to, to kind of get there. So you never get through it. But what I have found as I'm kind of clawing my way back now, and I'm still teaching, and I love, teaching. I'm growing this foundation. I want this to be $1 million 501c3 in the next couple of years. I want this to be huge. I'm, competing. I'm trying to get my pro card. Like all of these things that her and I had talked about doing, I'm still doing. And they're not easy. It used to be walking into the gym every day before was the best part of my day. Now it's the hardest. Every day. Sometimes I sit in the car for an hour before I walk into the gym, and I sit out there and I listen to music and I bawl my eyes out and I talk to her, but I still get my ass out of the car and I still go in there and I do it. And I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't take that away. At first I was like, God, I wish that she had been into knitting so I don't ever have to freaking knit again, some crap that I didn't want to do. But she wasn't. She was into the same damn shit that I was.
I was still visualizing that old white lady.
Right? I mean, dude, pretty sure she's probably still got mustard spilled on her from the horrible sandwich that I made. It was awful. And she's ingrained into me because I was so embarrassed and so stressed, sweat as I'm trying to put this freaking sandwich together. It was awful. But with Sophia,
she just made life easier.
She made life easier. But what I found now is where I'm at, and again, going through the Maxwell steps and going through everything I've done and building this foundation, and I'm putting these pieces together, is what I found out is grief doesn't stop greatness. People think grief will break you. But if you take that grief and you figure out how to focus it, how to channel it, and how to use it, it will build you. And that's where I'm at today. I'll always be grieving, but I will use that grief to build myself, to grow myself. If I fail, I'm going to fail forward. What happened? Why did I fail? What do I have to do different? What, whose fault is it? That kind of thing. So that's what I try and put into my business. And that's what I try and instill in other people. And that's kind of what I try and instill in everybody. And it's crazy to think that this person that was in my life for, 6 or 7 years woke all that up in me. I've always been Mr. Fun and successful and blah, 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 kind of all that. But I'm very different now. I'm still that same person, but I take so much of what I've learned. I learned more from Sofia. She changed my life twice. She changed my life when she walked into it. And I was like, are you kidding? This is what it's supposed to be. This is happiness. This is fun. This is how you connect. She completely changed my life. This is somebody that believes in me. I can go teach. God, I never thought I'd do that. And then when she left this world, she changed my life again. So, she's had such a big impact and that it's just crazy. So that's kind of where I am with the foundation, and everything is just trying to teach people, like I said, that growth, you can grow when you didn't think it was possible, but that grief doesn't have to stop you.
It keeps going into my mind. There's one, and I have to do a lot more research into this. Boulder Crest Foundation. Do you know what that is? Okay. So post-traumatic growth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like, I just keep hearing that every single time you mention it. It's like, there's PTSD and then there's PTG, which is, would you rather it be something, because so I was talking to Josh Goldberg for a little bit. He was at Cal and he was talking, and like, kind of from what I remember is that post-traumatic stress disorder is almost like you're the victim, that you're like, all this happened to you, that this doesn't happen to anyone else. And it's almost like, it's almost, not to get into like conspiracy theories or anything, but like pharmaceutical companies, how the point of medicine isn't exactly to cure you. It's just to get you back. I
believe that 100%. Let's go down a conspiracy theory. I'm all over that. But I agree with that. Yeah.
It's like self-induced obsolescence.
Okay.
It's like it's almost like planned obsolescence, where companies create something with the intention that eventually it's going to end.
Right. Your iPhone is only going to be good for only top notch for 2 years, and then you need a new one.
Yeah.
Right.
And yes, you can spend more money, but now the company makes more money. It's like I could go into like how Apple tiers its iPads and everything. It's like, that's another thing. But PTSD is almost like a therapy recurring cycle of like, I just have to keep going. I have to keep doing the same thing over and over. Whereas post-traumatic growth is like, here's what happened to you. What are you going to do from now?
I love that.
Think about it. It's like, where has this been all my life? And I'm not saying like I've gone through as much as you have, or much as like,
well, but we've all been through, different stuff. I have friends that literally just lost their dog and they're devastated. It's okay. Everybody has to go through something at different points. I also know people that lost, their mom and dad when they were 12. I certainly didn't have to endure that or go through that. So we all go through different stuff. I don't think anybody's grief is more or less or different or whatever it is. My brother, for God's sakes, lost his 11 and 12-year-old kids, and he died that day. Not technically, but my brother died that day. And that was one of the things when everything happened with Sofia was, I didn't want to die that day. How do I turn this into something where I can keep taking a step forward and learning and whatever, getting better, growing from it. So that's just huge. I feel that 100%.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was the Jocko episode or the Struggle Well book that said this, but that trauma itself isn't compared to anyone else. It's compared to, this is because someone could go through war, have grenades next to them, gunfire blaring their ears out, and like the trauma from that is insane. But at the same time, someone who's like in corporate America and their wife cheats on them, takes the kids, takes the house, takes everything. It's what broke down your world. Yeah. And then what are you going to do about it? Now, obviously it takes time. Like it's not going to be an overnight thing. Like, sure, Rome wasn't built in a day, but also we're not Roman.
Yeah. And that's one of the things with the foundation. When I try and talk to people, if you are going through a trauma or tragedy, and we've had people that have been drug addicts. I got a guy yesterday sent me on Facebook, follows me. Hey, just wanted to say you're looking good. Like everything you post, I really use it. Don't know who this guy was. I messaged back. I said, hey, no problem. Thank you. Turns out kind of what you said. He had lost his job, lost his wife, lost his kids. And now he's on drugs. And I was like, dude, I'll help you get a membership. You know, we're not a doctor. I can't help you get off drugs, but I will help you, you know, grow and do what you got to do, kind of thing. But so we've had drug addicts. I've had a guy that got out of prison. I've had people that have overcome cancer and different stuff, breakups. It's everybody. Everybody has their own cross to bear, you know, whatever it is. Everybody has to deal with their own stuff. And you're right. It's at different levels, you know, for everybody. When I speak and I'm talking about working out and what it does to you, both physically and mentally, because there's so much science on getting up and going for a walk and the hormones and the things that it releases and the happy, you know, things that it does to make you feel better, your dopamine, your serotonin levels, all the stuff that it does. Some people know that and some people don't, but I can be in front of a bodybuilding crowd and I'll say, how many people in here started working out because you were going through some shit and getting in the gym made you feel better? And probably 70% of the people raise their hand. I've been in a corporate environment and said that exact same thing, and 3 people raise their hands.
That's mostly because they're desk workers.
Yeah, so
there's no reason to work out. It's like, I'm going to be going at a desk, my legs are going to feel like nothing. Why do I have to work out?
Yeah, so it's very different. Now, there's a CEO of a cyber company that I did some work for, and they were fantastic. And the reason was the CEO had heard, I think, one of the podcasts or seen something, and he was like, no, I 1000% relate to this. He's like, I was bottom of the barrel and I started working out and it changed my life little by little. You know, it's not like you go in and do some sit-ups and you're like, holy shit, I'm fixed, let's go. But it's that progress.
Yeah, and there's one thing I just wanted to mention because I learned about this probably a week ago, is hope molecules, which is the proteins that and other signaling molecules that muscles secrete during exercise. The main one that gets attention is the brain-derived nootropic factor.
BDNF.
Yeah, which is released during exercise and acts like fertilizer for the brain, promoting new neural connections and neuroplasticity. And there's like 4 different variations on this, but it's surprising how like something like you don't realize why it happens. And then I'm not saying specifically the science, but like how humans evolved over the century. It's like, there's a reason why the exercise starts is because that's what keeps you going. If you're a lazy bum, you're basically not going to be good survival-wise.
So a lot of the new science now deals with your gut biome, your microbiome in your gut. 10 years ago, your microbiome was, do I have diarrhea or constipation? That's kind of what we thought about. Now they're realizing that your microbiome is connected for everything from happiness, stress, aging, Alzheimer's, dementia, like so many things. And they're just scratching the surface on that.
95% of serotonin is made in the gut.
Yeah. Yep. So it's huge. And, you know, Sofia and I started doing keto and then we started doing intermittent fasting. And had you told me before we started all this that I was going to go to the gym and go train without eating a freaking Coke and something and a Twinkie or something to give me a sugar rush, I'd have been like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Now, my best workouts, I try and never go in the gym without at least 4 hours, of no food in my gut. But some of the best workouts will do extended fasts up to 48 hours. There's some science that says that about 50 hours, you start cannibalizing protein. And as a bodybuilder, that freaks me out. So I'm like, hell no, can't go past 50. Let me stop at 48, But there's so many things that it does from where it raises your testosterone levels, your growth hormone levels, your serotonin levels, all this stuff. Your brain functions very well on ketones.
Oh yeah. Ketones and electrolytes, like natural. So I have an entire list on my website on like under my research thing where I put all the stuff. Ketones and those are more natural stuff. Caffeine and stuff. Caffeine is more of an inhibitor, like what's the other thing? Nicotine, stuff like that. It's like it
there's a lot of new stuff on nicotine now, on nicotine patches and stuff, on things that it's able to help. So it's pretty neat.
And I'll probably like anything that you say, I'll see if I can find a study for it.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And it's crazy to me, like in the bodybuilding world, there are so many old school bro science still. We were told, you're getting ready for a show, you've got to eat 6 or 7 small meals a day because that increases your metabolism. No, it doesn't. There's not a single study now. Science is better than it was 20 years ago. We believe that then. Now, it absolutely makes no difference. You can eat 1 time a day or 10 times a day. It's calories in and calories out and kind of, different stuff like that. That's different. Branched chain amino acids. It's a $30 billion a year business, something ridiculous like that. BCAAs, for the most part, are a waste, depending on when you take them, the timing of it. Leucine, so isoleucine, your BCAAs are leucine, isoleucine, valine, whatever the other one is. Leucine is the one you want post-workout. Leucine is the one that will activate mTOR, which is your protein synthesis. So if you take that after you work out and before you eat, that's what your body will use to start building muscle. If you take it beforehand, it starts to shut down muscle building issues. If you take isoleucine and I want to say valine maybe, they are like caffeine antagonists. And most of the time we're drinking a pre-workout drink that has 200-300 milligrams of caffeine. So there's all this science behind it. And I love that stuff. But it's funny to me still how many people still push this old school, no, I like the science. I want to know, how does this work? When we first started doing keto, I'm a hater. And Sofia was a hater too. And I was like, these people talk, it was getting big on Instagram. We were like, all these people doing keto and they're eating, eggs and cheese and a bunch of shit. And I was like, this can't be good. We've all done low carb as a bodybuilder. It sucks. But we didn't know it was keto. We just knew it was low carb. I'm like, let's try this. So we tried it based on what we had seen on the internet. And it was horrible. We're like 15 days into it. We're trying to test our blood and test our ketones and stuff, and it was miserable. She felt like shit. I felt like shit, tired, grumpy, angry. That afternoon, she tells me, she says, when I get home tonight, I'm done. We're going to have some rice and potatoes, and this isn't working. And I go, yeah, I said, I think we can kind of debunk this whole keto mystery. This is some bullshit. In between that and when she got home, I'm online and I'm on some Reddit line somewhere. And I end up talking to a guy who is a scientist at NIH, National Institutes of Health. And he goes, look, we don't call it keto because that's way too mainstream. We call it VLCHF, very low carb, high fat. And he goes, this diet has been around for 100 years. And he said, we use it for kids with epilepsy. We're using it for different types of cancer. He goes, I don't know shit about bodybuilding, but I will certainly tell you all the ways we use this from a medical standpoint. Would you be interested? I was like, hell yeah. So I spent a few hours going back and forth with him, and he didn't know bodybuilding and I didn't know the science, but we kind of merged the two. I was like, holy shit, there is a place for this. Let's figure it out. Well, within 24 hours, we had tweaked stuff and we were in ketosis. And the feeling that you have in ketosis is completely different. Running on ketones versus running on glycogen, completely different mental feeling. And when you're at a 48-hour fast and you're in a medically induced or a medical level of ketosis, your GKI level, your glucose ketone index is extremely low. I always tell people, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can hear colors and there are dragons flying around the room. Like you're just that, mentally focused. Now, physically, you're starting to drag ass. You could do cardio for hours, but going to go lift something heavy, not happening. So it's a very different type of energy, but mentally, oh my God, it's fantastic. Anytime we would travel, and I still do, if we're going to go do a 15, 18-hour drive to Florida or wherever it is, I'll make sure and I'll test to make sure that my GKI is very low and my ketones are high because I know that I'm going to be able to drive longer. I'm not going to have to stop 47 times, And it used to be, if I'm going on a trip, all right, let me go get pretzels, Coke, Cheetos, a couple cupcakes. Yeah. And now it's the exact opposite. So I love learning stuff. I love finding out that I was wrong about stuff. It's great.
Next time you're right.
Yeah. And I tell the kids all the time, I'm like, this stuff I'm teaching you in nutrition, first of all, you guys getting nutrition in high school, you can graduate from Harvard with an MD and you have 3 hours of nutrition as a doctor from Harvard. I said, so you guys will have more information as high school graduates than somebody graduating from Harvard. But I said, everything that I'm telling you now, 5 years from now, I'm liable to go, yeah, I was wrong on that. Here's what the new science says. So yeah, I love that part of it. And Sofia loved, like we were just guinea pigs on each other. Hey, let's do this. Let's not eat for 12 hours and let's drink this with caffeine and try this. And let's see, it was just whatever, dumb shit that we would try. So we loved it. I still try and do a lot of the same stuff. And And I still talk to her about it. I just don't always get the same response that I used to.
Dave says that on the director of martial arts. He says that all the time. It's my move until you can do it better. Yeah. Or no, that's not what he said. Well, he says that too, but that he's not willing, that he will change his game if he has to change it. If there's something new that he learns, he will be like, okay, yeah, the thing I've been teaching you for 10 years, that's wrong. Here's the right way to do it. Yeah. And he would never. He's never in a state of, he's been on the podcast twice. Yeah. He would never be in the state of saying, you did that this time. You know what? Just keep doing it because we've been doing it forever. And it's kind of goes like to the mindset that of impermanence, that nothing's permanent.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever
but that's a growth thing.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get stuck in every type of growth, whether it's through grief or sales or physical or whatever it is they don't want to try something new. They don't want to learn something different. They don't want to, part of my growth just as a human being is my life is vastly different now than it was when Sofia was here, but it's exactly the same. I do the exact same things I go to our favorite restaurants. I still go to Nats games. I still do the things that we love to do. I just do them by myself. And that's part of my growth. Now, would it probably be good for me to get out and do some other stuff? Yeah, and I do from time to time, but my life overall is very different. I'm doing this stuff by myself, but there's never a loneliness to it. I don't feel like I'm alone.
It's kind of like a fractal. You've gotten to this little point where you like zoom in and you realize there's so much more out there. And then at that point, it's like, well, there's a lot more. Why try to, it's like specializing into one thing instead of trying to figure out to do 100 things at the same time.
Yeah. And I'm I don't know that I ever was, but I've become a very big energy person, for lack of a better word.
Like a spiritual energy?
Yes. And again, I like the science part of it. So I don't care what anybody believes. Like I said, I love being able to talk religion and politics with everybody. I love being able to hear different viewpoints and what everybody thinks. But I don't care what anybody believes. What I do know for a fact now is what we experience on this earth physically is not the end. I have so many things happen where Sofia shows up.
Oh, you want to talk about the kitchen story?
Oh, there's just so many. There was just so many. The kids, I just had a kid bring this story up the other day. I have a beach ball in my room that she gave me, and it sits on my windowsill. Sat there for 2 years. Same spot. There's no fan. There's no open window. There's no anything. It sits there. And the first year after she passed, I was staying at the podium and I was talking to the kids, and one of them said, "Mr. Kirk, you look like you're upset." And I said, "Yeah, they just got back from lunch." I said, "Yeah, I was talking to one of her best friends during lunch." I said, "Just kind of got to me or something." I said, "I'm okay. Let's go back to what we were talking about." And as I said that, this beach ball plops off the windowsill and rolls across the floor in front of my podium and stops. You could hear a pin drop in my class, and the kids go. One of them goes, "Mr. Kirk, was that a ghost?" And I said, "Probably an angel, but yeah." There's no way you can explain that. None. The kitchen thing, not long after everything had happened, I had ordered an air fryer because we love to cook and we made our cooking videos. Swole Kitchen was our YouTube channel, and we make stupid videos. And I was trying to cook bacon wrapped jalapeno stuffed chicken breasts or something's really good, right? It was good. I didn't know how to do it. And I remember, I'm trying to remember the whole story now, but basically it was cooking. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in the other room and the light started flashing on and off in the kitchen. I walked in like, why the hell are the lights flashing on and off? And I looked and I opened up because this was getting ready to burn. And it's just, I've had...
I think you said it was chicken and asparagus.
Yeah, so yeah. And the asparagus still ended up burning. But the chicken turned out to be pretty good. And there's probably been 300 or 400 things that have happened. You have to open yourself up to it. I talk to her constantly. She doesn't answer back, but I talk to her constantly. Wintertime this past year, there's a 7-Eleven not far from our house, and I'm leaving the house and I'm walking across the street to 7-Eleven, and I'm talking to her out loud. And I'm like, "Oh, baby," I said, "I wish you were here because you would go to 7-Eleven for me. Freaking hate walking over here when it's cold." I said, "But you would be happy to go because you'd be on the phone talking to Dominique or Megan or Nani, and you'd be laughing, and you'd go over here and get me some kind of a treat, and then you'd bring it back, and my ass didn't have to leave. I'm like, I hate that you're not here and I have to walk over here by myself. I get to 7-Eleven, I buy whatever I was going to buy, I come walking back, and I get right in front of my house, and I stop, and I look up, and I go, babe, I just wish I could give you some kind of hug. And the fucking street light turned off. And I went, was that you? And street light stayed off. And I'm like, okay. And I walked in the house, and I'm a doubter. So I'm still thinking, can't be. Walked in, put everything down in the kitchen, walked in my bedroom. My remote control was laying on my bed, and the red light is flashing on and off. Usually stuff with her happens in 2s or 3s.
Yeah, first is a coincidence, second is a...
like kind of a confirmation. Yeah. And one of the first bodybuilding shows that I worked after everything happened, I had put a post up, and I had talked about how, I was still doing this, but I didn't want to. I'd be perfectly happy if I got hit by a train. This is not why I don't want to be here without you, blah, blah, blah. And I put this post up, and I'm texting back and forth for one of her friends, and I open up Facebook, and I look at it, and it has 222 views. And that kind of stuff happens all the time. I see 222 on, different stuff like that now. I showed up 2 weeks later at the next show. A friend of ours was sponsoring the show. I'm literally standing in line at the hotel to get my room. There's 1,000 rooms in this hotel. I get up, I give him my name. I'm standing there talking to the guy that's sponsoring the show, Jason, and we're talking about different stuff. And he goes, okay, everything's set, Mr. Kirk. Here's your room. It's 222. Are you kidding? There's 1,000 rooms. I've gotten 222 at 3 bodybuilding shows we've gone to now. What are the chances? I'm pretty sure I've never had some other room 3 times in a row. Maybe, I don't know, but it sticks out. So there's just so much stuff that happens that, again, I'm like, I don't care what you believe. You can believe in God, not God, anything, but this is not it. There's energy. There is something more to this that none of us know. We don't really technically know, what it is. And it's funny because if you talk to somebody Catholic, they are hardcore. This is the way. This is the only way. Blah, blah, blah. You talk to somebody, in different religions, and it's this is the way. This is the only way. And I'm kind of like, I think you're all pretty much right, and I think you're all pretty much wrong. Like there's something, there's bits and pieces that make sense, but there's bits and pieces that don't. So I don't know. Everybody always says, how do you deal with like the anger, and what do you think of God, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I believe in God. I believe in Sofia. I get in the car this morning when I leave, and I'm like, all right, babe, hope you're with me today. I said, let's go kick some ass on this podcast. We need to grow the business. I want to talk about you, tell how amazing you are. I said, let's get out of here and go to the gym, have a good workout. I need you because I got, I'm 2 weeks out. I got to stay on track. So I talked to her stuff. I forgot where I was going with that.
No, it's all right. I have the exact same thing. So 611, Substratum 611, the 611 part always pops up. Like when I first started it, there was 611 refers to June 11th, 1976, when the Committee of Five drafted the Declaration of Independence. So not necessarily the declaration itself, but the planning process to get there. It's like growth doesn't happen because of the result. It happens during that little bit. And so like there was, I was at a gas station, great food. And it's not just like gas station food, it's like good quality food. I got order number 611. There's so many times when I look at the clock and it's 611 for no reason. I'm just like, what time is it? 611. Shoot. And then recently, so the reason why the entire podcast got started is because of a woman. Okay. I thought it was June 4th. So it was about this time last year. I thought it was June 14th. We had this amazing conversation. I think every single episode is almost like the euphoria of trying to get that same conversation again. Yeah. And it's like, it was the first emotionally connected conversation with a very attractive woman. She's absolutely beautiful. She's a ball of sunshine. And I thought it was June 14th. Like that's sticking in my mind. I absolutely love her. She's wonderful. I wish I could date her, but it's like just one of those.
We could stalk her.
No. I'm not gonna be creepy. And she's wonderful. I wish I could talk to her more, but she has her life and I've got mine. And it might work out, it might not. It's like I say I'm not worried about it, but it's not true. So I thought it was June 14th. Okay. I looked back at my calendar a couple weeks ago. It's June 11th.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
It pissed me off so
yeah,
much.
that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah. So, and it wasn't intentional. Like I didn't think it was that day. And then June 19th last year is when I first started thinking about the idea and everything. First, I wanted to do a consulting company. It's like, I don't know anything about growth. Like, who the hell am I? So I just started doing the podcast, and it's almost like, and it's happened hundreds of times. Yeah. I'll look out, like, just coincidentally look at the clock at 6:11. I wake up, look at the clock at 6:11.
I've been in bed several times and sound asleep, and I'll feel a tap on my shoulder or the bed move or something, and I'll roll over, and then I'll look at the clock, and it's 2:22. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? It's just those kind of things.
It's so beautiful.
Are not coincidences. There's too many things that happen over and over and over and over again. And it's not all the time. Like I say it and people are probably like, all right, you're batshit crazy, old man. Sometimes I'll go a month and not see anything. Right. And it'll stress me out a little bit. I'm like, I haven't really seen anything. I hope she's still around, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, bam, I'll get hit with like 3 crazy things, at once. And it's not always the 222 related kind of thing, but it's something that has to do with her. And you just have to be open to it, And I say that about God, but the flip side of that is if I'm in an accident when I leave out of here and I'm in the back of an ambulance and they're taking me to the hospital, the first thing I'm doing is praying to God that I'm okay. So I understand the dichotomy that I have, in my own head where part of me is, pissed off at God and what happened. I don't understand this. We talked about with the big picture. Why'd all this happen? Why'd you put her into my life and take her away? On the other hand, so no, I don't believe in you. I only believe in her because I get lots of positive stuff from her. But the flip side, if something big happens, you're damn right. That's what I'm going to be doing. And so I get that part and I struggle with it. I just don't.
Is that the beauty of hope? It's both something that can hurt you, but also it's the most beautiful. It's wonderful to have it.
Yeah. I think one of the big things it's done with me is I don't fear not being on this earth anymore. And I mean that on a very different level. Like nobody wants to die, but I also understand now that this is not it. So if it's my time and it happens, it's my time and it happens. I know I'm going to get to see everybody again. And I don't mean that. I had somebody tell me one time when everything first happened, they're like, oh, but imagine she's in heaven now and the streets are paved with gold and blah, blah. I was like, that's not heaven to Sophia.
That's not.
I'm like, she's waiting, eating a Five Guys burger in the middle of a gym, listening to some Bad Bunny. That's what's going on with her. I said, so, heaven's going to be different to everybody, but that's just the energy part of it. I think, like you said, I look at it very, very, very different than I used to.
Yeah, no, I understand. I tried committing suicide when I was 13. So now it's like, I understand, like, oh, well, it's one thing to say that you don't mind dying. Right. It's like, what if someone like stabbed you and you have all this overwhelming pain for 10 minutes? Right. And it's like, yes, but I'm not afraid of leaving. It's like, I don't, well, maybe 2 years ago, I could say, well, I was watching TV all the time. I wasn't really doing all the stuff that I would want to do. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have like a reason to keep going. But now it's like, I don't live any day without the thought that today was a bad day. Like, sure, there's things I could have done more. I could have done a little bit more today, but I just got exhausted or I burnt out or something. But I never, like every day, I never say this was a wasted day. Like I didn't do enough or there wasn't, like, sure, there's one more thing I did, but I did 100 other stuff. And like I'm permanently etched into this mindset that I don't want to, that I'm not a failure or at least as much as I was 2 years ago.
You are what I always tell everybody when I meet somebody and they're like, oh, how is her so-and-so or blah. And if it's that person, I say they get it and you get it. And sometimes that happens when you're young. Sometimes it happens later on in life. Some people die and never get it. I know so many people that have money and their most important thing is what car, what vacation, what can I post on social media? And I'm like, is that more important? Or when you're laying there on your deathbed, do you wish that you'd hugged your son one more time or spent more? That's the kind of thing that's different. I was happier with Sophia when I was living in my car or sneaking in the room that she was renting to come stay, and her and I just connected. I always said I would much rather live with the person you're supposed to be with and be happy living on a box in the street than living in a castle somewhere with somebody you're not meant to be with, so you get it. And that's impressive, because I think a lot of people go through life and never get it. And it's one of those things too, when you talk about questioning stuff, and you were talking about like Jocko and different people like that have been through shit and are good people. The other question is, why are there so many bad people that have great lives?
Because money doesn't care.
Right.
It doesn't. Money is just a tool. You can go to Home Depot, you can get 1,000 shovels if you wanted to. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to build a business with it. Hey, go for it and make more money. But Josh Goldberg, the guy who wrote the book or co-wrote the book Struggle Wealth at the Boulder Crest Foundation, in his book, he was talking about how one day his wife just asked him, or at the time his wife asked him, what do you want? Is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? And that completely changed, or not completely changed, but that changed like the way he saw everything, because he was working at a job. He wasn't fulfilled, wasn't happy, wasn't in the world that he wanted to be in. And then from there, completely like started doing more things, started getting becoming more of himself. And it just goes to like the idea that people can be comfortable, and if that's a solution for their problem, go for it. Right? Do what works for you.
I feel that. I mean, I made in all my jobs, the job that I have now as a teacher is literally the worst paying job I've had since I graduated college in 1991. And that's horrible. There's a million things I could go do. I'm good at sales. I've sold everything and made good money doing it, but I have no desire for that pressure, for that. I don't want to go sell something I'm not passionate about. Can I do it? Yeah. Could I go do it and make, 200,000, whatever? I could absolutely go do something. No desire. That part of me is gone. I want to do something that feels good, that's meaningful. I feel better, more connected, more happy, more at peace when I am on stage talking about Sofia than any other time in my life. That's hands down my favorite. And when the other issue, talking about that, is a lot of people don't want to ask about somebody who's passed away, or they're afraid to talk to them about it. I still talk about her all the time. Somebody will say, hey, have you tried this new pre-workout drink? And I go, oh my God, Sofia and I love that one. And I'll see a lot of them will go.
And that's sometimes because they're
uncomfortable.
Sometimes, and I'm going to say this because I told someone recently, great guy, he's great at jiu-jitsu. I told him that I tried to commit suicide at 13. He was like, whoa, a war drop. This is good. This is like, but it was like in a way that like he never went through something like that.
Right.
And
Didn't understand.
It's almost like the people and this kind of goes to like the Boston Marathon bombings, is that the people who were not actually at the bombing were more traumatized by it than the people who were. And it's like you get over it and then you realize, or even Unovi Park, I'm not sure that's the best way of saying her name. She's a North Korean defector. Okay. She went from North Korea to South Korea, but she had to go through like sex trafficking in order to do it. And
she does a TED Talk and speaks now. Yeah. Fantastic. She's amazing to listen to.
She was talking about how on Joe Rogan's episode.
I've heard, yep.
Listening to the entire thing.
She's fantastic.
She was talking about how all of her girlfriends are talking about how like, oh, my boyfriend, this guy doesn't want to talk to me, or this guy is not responding fast enough, or he doesn't care about me. And she's like, what? In the North Korean language, there's no idea of individuality. There's no, this is not mine. There's no me. It's like, there's no lower baseline you can go to. Like suicide or something, that's just a low baseline. Right. Everything else is so much easier. Mm-hmm. And not just like not like water where it's like there's a level and then there's like a midnight zone and everything, but it's like there's a surface level. This is the world that I live on. And then we're talking about the Mariana Trench. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing that's any deeper than that. Right. And it's one, letting go, but also, do you know who Layla Hormozi is? Mm-mm. Or Alex Hormozi? Mm-mm. So Alex Hormozi, he does a lot of great podcasts, and he has this company, acquisition.com, that goes into leads, sales, and trying to take multi-million dollar companies and like scale them up and everything. And his wife, Layla, co-owns the company. There was one time she was saying how she was talking to her therapist, and she was going through something and she didn't know what to do. And the therapist asked, well, when do you want to let go? Do you want to let go? Do you want to let go Thursday? Let go next Monday? Like, how long do you want it to eat you up?
Wow.
And at what point do you say, that's it? Yeah. Like, yeah, sure, you went through all that. At what point do you just say, that's enough? Yeah. Tomorrow's like a little bit too soon. Like there's one instant gratification, like, oh, I'll get it over tonight. Right. No, your mind needs time to process it. But if you've gone through life, like you're 30 or 40 or something, and you're like, all right, this is taking me too long. Like, you've been through worse. Right. You've been like, this is not the most traumatic thing in the world. Yeah. You can, the more you go through it, the easier it is to let go, or easier it is to bounce back. And that's, I think she also had another thing on Instagram that was like, resilience is not how well you push through adversity, but how well you bounce back.
That's the Rocky scene where in Rocky 5, where he's talking to his son, he's like, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get knocked down and get back up again, and I show that clip to the kids all the time. One of the things that hit me is that without Sofia here, like the grief part of it, the bad days are bad. If something goes wrong, if something's bad at school, my car breaks down, money, whatever's going on, bad days are bad. Good days are worse.
Yeah. It's like, what am I not
The
suffering from?
good days are worse because you don't have that person to share it with, I think. I will go through days where I'm like, man, today was a good day. I had a good day at school. Kids and I were laughing and connected on different stuff. I had an awesome workout. I just hit a PR on bench and this is good. I'm going home. I got good food cooking, and I'll be in the car and I'm jamming the music and I'm good. And all of a sudden I'm like,
there's no one else who can see
fucking here.
Yeah.
And that is 1,000 times worse than, oh my God, my life sucks. This is hard. Because you can get through that. I've been through the bad, but it's the good hits harder than the bad hits now, which is very different for me.
But, and just from what you're telling me about Sofia, wouldn't that be what she wants you to do?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
To enjoy the good times?
Yeah, 100%. And I do. But it doesn't make it easier. That's why I still do. And I know so many people now that have gone through losing their significant other, and everybody handles it different. I have a good friend, her husband passed away during COVID. Within 2 months, she had sold the house, quit her job, moved away. She's like, nope, I can't be around. I don't want any of it. Yeah. And I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, I'm still living where we lived. I've still got her, I put on her damn shoes and her feet were like this big, and I put on her little slippers to go walk my ass to 7-Eleven sometimes. So I'm the exact opposite. And they say with men, a lot of times, when men lose a spouse, they go one of two ways. They either go right into a new relationship or they never go into another relationship. It's one of the two. And we're at 4 years and I'm pretty sure I'm on the never going into a relationship again, just because
it's loyalty.
It's loyalty. I don't think it would be fair it would take somebody very special to understand that I am always going to be in love with Sofia. Doesn't mean I couldn't be in love with, Susie too, but you'd have to take somebody really special to be able to understand that. So I don't think it would be fair. Right now where I'm sitting, I would feel huge guilt, like I was doing something wrong, and I've had Sofia's friends go, she would want you to be out there dating and be bullshit. She would want me out there dating. She would kick my ass, and then they go, yeah, that's true. She's right, And I'm like, don't tell me that shit just to make me feel good. Because when you think about it, damn well, I said, she will haunt my ass if that's the case. So, I never say never. Never know what's going to happen. But it definitely changes your perspective, on everything. Like you said, doing what you were going to do at 13 changed the way you approach everything. You hit a different level of low. You said the Mariana Trench. That's
it's well, at this point, like I say, I don't have a low self-esteem. I don't have a high self-esteem. I just have self-esteem.
Go to Walmart, wander around and look at everybody, and suddenly you'll be like, you know what, I'm pretty good. That's
also, it's like comparison's the thief of joy. Yeah. If I go to Walmart, also the other quote, which is if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Yeah. It's like, I could go to Walmart. There's a bunch of idiots there. I'm not there for that. I'm just to maybe get some food and then leave. It's like.
So one of the things I love at school, we always watch, since it's a nutrition class, we watch my 600-pound life. But the other thing that the kids will get into when they're working on worksheets, I'm like, all right, I got something for you guys. and we'll put on My Strange Addiction or My Strange Obsession. And these people are like, this woman's eating mattresses. There's another woman sniffing gasoline, baby powder, like this weird shit. And the kids will sit and just be amazed by this. Other ones where it's just addictions. One guy, all he eats for like the last 12 years is pizza. Never had another meal. Yeah. And we'll watch this stuff. And I'm like, if you guys, anytime you are feeling bad about yourself, put one of these shows on and you go, I'm not batshit crazy. These people are. I'll feel a little bit better. So
I think that's like, that goes to how both stupidity and intelligence are both fascinating to look at. Yeah. It's like, it's hard to realize like how much you've changed until something exists to compare yourself to. Yeah. Like there's body cam footage. There's a lot of like trauma stuff. There's this one YouTube channel of Jack Neal. He goes into like all this like horror stuff, and I'm like, this is great. It's like how bad is humanity?
Right.
And then you realize like the more I expose myself to that, the more I'm going to start thinking that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get desensitized to it, I think, a little bit.
And it's even like at some point, it's desensitized both consciously and subconsciously. Yeah. It's like, oh, I can tolerate that on myself, which it's more like, oh, I'd rather listen to a podcast. Like, I've got other stuff that's more important, but still understand that world does exist.
I'm teaching myself how to do Rubik's Cube right now. That's my new thing.
I am so
Why
sorry.
the hell am I like, I'm like,
yeah, what is wrong with you?
I'm like, I'm 56 years old now. Why the hell did I just buy a Rubik's Cube that I want to learn? And I literally am. And I've done it twice now. And it's taken me probably an hour because now I really have to think through it. But then I flip on these videos and I watch these kids go, what the you just did this shit in a second and a half. What is that?
But like, you don't have the same neuroplasticity.
No, definitely not. But it's just, I did it because I grew up with the Rubik's Cube. The only way I was going to put it together was popping this thing off and putting them back together, cheating and doing it that way. And I was like, I could do this shit. So I literally spent $8 and got a Rubik's Cube. And now I'm learning how to do it. So when I go back to school in August, the kids I'm going to have a Rubik's Cube on my desk. And we need him there. You can't talk. Really? Mess it up and watch me fix it. I can't wait to go do it. So it's part of growth. I mean, it's stupid growth, but it's growth, Well,
that's also the beauty of novelty. Mm-hmm. The beauty of starting something new is that you have the initial part of being the beginner again. Yeah. That like you've been bodybuilding for what, 30 years now? 40 years?
I started working out when I was 15 in high school wrestling. And you couldn't tell me, here's one of the best things. You couldn't tell me in our wrestling pictures in high school that I wasn't freaking jacked. I was 98 pounds and I got my singlet on looking all like tough. I thought I was a badass. And I look at that now and go, oh my God, what the hell is going on? Yeah, so 15, I started working out and I just turned 56 last couple days ago. So
I'm so sorry.
I know, it's rough. 40, 40, everybody always talks about that. 40 was hard. 40 was like, oh my God, I'm old. 50 was not that big of a deal. 60 is going to be rough. So we'll see. Hopefully, if things go well in 12 days at Team Universe and I get a pro card, there's not a whole lot of people at 56 can say they became a pro athlete. So that'll be a nice little thing for me to be able, you know what? I'm good. I'm not done yet. This is okay.
I know so many old people at this point, they don't speak in years. They speak in decades.
Yeah.
Like, yep, 3 decades ago, I was doing this.
I was telling the kids, so I was born in 1969. So I've lived in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, the teens. I've lived in 7 decades. Yeah. They're like, how can that be?
The aughts?
Yeah. How do you pronounce
That's
it?
What they call it the aughts now?
Well, that's what it's all. It's like it's in between.
Yeah, in 2000, 2010,
yeah,
the aughts. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like 7 freaking decades.
I'm sorry. That's too boomer for me.
I'm not boomer. One of the guys that comes in my class.
Close enough.
Nope. My ass is Gen X. We will fight over boomer. I've had literally kids in the beginning. Okay, boomer. I'm like, do I look like my ass is? And I'm not far from it because what would it be 5 years, I think, older than me. And I'm like 65 or something was when it started. I'm like, no. I am Gen X 1000%. I said, don't even throw my ass into that. We go round and round. And it's funny because Sofia was a millennial and we didn't have the same music. We didn't watch the same movies. She loves scary movies. Fucking hates scary movies. Oh, come on, let's watch it. And I've watched a few of them since, but every Friday night, we would order food, make food, do whatever we want to do, make margaritas and stuff. And we'd sit down and she's like, all right, let's watch a movie. And we'd put on Netflix. And always, she's like, oh, look at this one where the freaking devil's going to overtake a doll and kill it. Oh, jeez. And I'd sit there on the edge of the couch going, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. And I'd watch them with her and she would love it. But then I'd make her flip around and I'm like, all right, well, tomorrow we're going to watch Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, something different. And the same thing with, with music. I just have to laugh. But we were so good at being able to go back and forth. We'd get in the car and I'd be jamming to some 90s stuff. And then she'd put on some Spanish music or, whatever it was that was going on, like Daddy Yankee or Bad Bunny or something like that. I'm like, who the hell is this? Ooh, okay, I kind of like this. Hold on, So that kind of stuff was funny, but all that stuff was the non-important stuff. We both had the same. One of the things I think that was a big plus for both of us was because where I was in my life from having had so much and then lost it all, she was young enough where she hadn't had it, but we both had the same goals of what we were trying to build. We were in the same spot. So I was, 45 years old and in the same spot she was at 25 because so much shit had happened and it just made it work, okay. Because we had the same long-term goals. But the little stuff was funnier, that's the kind of stuff that we used to like to joke about. Babe, I am too old to do that shit. No, you're not. She would laugh because we both love roller coasters. I will go on any roller coaster. The one thing I will not go on are the swings. And we're not talking the 300-foot swings. I'm talking about the little bullshit ones that they set up in the parking lot over here that 5-year-olds are on. And you sit there and they just put the little thing across you. And there's little kids like this, right? And I'll go on them. I would go on them with her in the beginning because I got to be cool and I'm not going to not go on it. And I look and she's like this. And there's a little kid next to me and he's going, woo! And here's me. Hurry up and end, hurry up and hurry up. So after a while, I was like, babe, I'm not going on the fucking swings ever again. You are all over that. And I probably have 20 pictures of us at different amusement parks of her sitting on the swing by herself like this. And I'm, hey babe. And she's like, hi, you don't want to go? Fuck no, I don't want to go. I'm not going up on that thing. And it's just me sitting there. And it still makes me laugh when those pictures come up because she would go do it. Now she would get off. I'm like, all right, you want to go ride? And we go ride a big roller coaster I love. But I don't know why those swings scare the shit out of me and I won't do it. And I tried, but after a while I was like, nope. You're go on your own. So that was probably one of the biggest differences of us. We ate the same foods. We loved, love to do the same stuff, but fuck those swings. I'm not getting on that stuff. I have an image of that thing going around and whoever put it together didn't tighten the bolt and my fat ass goes shooting across the parking lot somewhere. So it's just it's a hot mess.
Just because I see it in social media a lot, why do you think you and Sofia fit so much and some people can't get over the tiny little things? The tiny little, oh, that's how you do your life, but that's ridiculous.
Exactly what you and I were talking about earlier. You have to get it. And when I say get it, you have to get the big picture. I could care less what somebody's political views, religious views, could care less. And like I said, I want yours to be different because I want to have that conversation and I want to learn something from it. And I also want to be able to tell you you're a dumbass for thinking that way because I know I'm right. But sometimes I'm going to walk away and go, all right, he's a dumbass, but that kind of makes good sense. Let me think about this. So with her and I, the little stuff just, didn't matter because the big stuff did. And I think for her being young enough, she hadn't been through anything to be cynical. And I had been through enough bad stuff to finally get something good and see the positive stuff in it, Now that being said, she would still, get angry or be pissed off at work or, road rage in the middle. I mean, I say this, I always tell everybody, oh, she was so happy and blah, blah, blah. But she was also a human being. So she would, in a heartbeat, cuss somebody out because they cut her off in traffic like we all do, or come home and be like, hey, what took so long? Those stupid assholes at so-and-so, and they tried to put my order in and that was wrong, and Chipotle, and they gave me the wrong right, whatever it is. So she was real like that. But all those things are just part of life. Those are things that that you laugh about now. I'll tell you a story that's funny. So back, God, early 2000s, I was dating a girl, and this was I had a cell phone, but nobody really used your cell phones. There was definitely no smartphones. I got done at the gym. I was leaving to go to her house for dinner, and I'm driving this car, and I had a custom car with all kinds of stuff done to it. I just had new exhaust put on it. It cost me like, I don't know, $1,000 worth of exhaust. Route 1 in Alexandria, my freaking exhaust falls off. I pull over to the side of the road. I'm laying under this. It's hot, and I'm looking at the car, and I'm moving stuff around, and I'm messing with it, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. Well, let me go over here and call her and tell her I'm going to be late. So I go over, I pick up the phone, I call her, and she answers. I go, hey, babe. I said, I just want to tell you I'm going to be late for dinner. And she's like, oh, is everything okay? I'm like, no, my effing car broke down. My exhaust fell off this piece of shit, $800, $1,000. I'm bitching and moaning, right? I just needed somebody to listen to me. And she goes, okay, well, just whatever you have to do. Do you need me to come get you? And I said, no, I'll figure it out. I'll be there in a little while. All right, well, no worries. Dinner's here when you get here, so I'll see you in a little bit. And I said, okay. And she goes, all right, well, I love you. Never forget. This was one of the dumbest things I ever said. I go, yeah, well, that doesn't really help right now, does it? God. And her and I've talked to her, and she just got remarried, and her and I still laugh about that. I'm like, she goes, you were such a dick when you said that. And I was like, yeah, those are words that definitely wouldn't come out of my mouth now, that then didn't think twice about it. Now something happens and my car breaks down. I go, well, I'm still alive. Everybody's okay. Yeah, I don't have the money to fix it, but that'll come. All right, well, we'll figure it out. Like, you just take it. Your perspective on everything changes. And Sophia and I were both like that with a lot of the little stuff. When we first started dating, and I was living in my car, and she was really working a entry-level job. We had no money. I mean, we'd steal toilet paper from somewhere. Her first bodybuilding prep, she didn't have a kitchen. We got her a hot plate, not even a freaking decent one, but like a $12 hot plate that you plug in and the bottom gets warm. And that's where her meal prep would be. She literally meal prepped 12 weeks of cans of tuna or bags of tuna. She wasn't even doing the cans, bags of tuna, and whatever we could cook on a little hot plate. You can't cook chicken and shit on a hot plate. Like, you're basically warming stuff up, right? And that was her prep. Fast forward 5 years later, and she's getting her pro card and winning junior USAs down in South Carolina, 2 different classes, and kicking ass. In the beginning, we would stay at the most dive-ass hotel you could possibly stay at and drive 30 miles. Now we were staying at the host hotel. Now we were ordering Butcher Box, which sends grass-fed grain or grass-fed, grass-finished beef. That's where, our food was. And the girls that she worked with used to laugh because she would take lunch to work the next day. And they're like, oh my God, what are you eating? She's like, oh, filet mignon and asparagus. And they're like, first of all, we know damn well you didn't make that. Kelly made that. What do you mean? And this Butcher Box, they'll send you, I forget how many pieces of steak. You can pick like what you get. So the filet mignon's only 6 ounces, these little pieces. I would order those for her because 6 ounces is just going to make me hungry. And I would order like 2 10-ounce ribeyes or 10-ounce New York. So I do my 20 ounces and I'd have hers. And I remember at one point we were talking about something and she goes, I just love these little steaks. Those little ones are so tender. They're so good. Not filet mignon, just those little steaks. Oh my God, they're so good. I love those. I go, you think, Princess? I said, that's a filet mignon, right? What? I go, yeah, it's like a $40 steak at a freaking restaurant somewhere. I said, and your spoiled ass eats it like 3 times a week because you're in prep and you need good food. I didn't know that. And I go, yeah, but let me go get your crown, and put it on for you. She just didn't know. But it was the difference from where we were before. I was like, remember, when you first started prepping, you lived on tuna on a hot plate. Now you're prepping the right way. But also the difference was, look at the results you're getting. You're winning nationals. You're getting a pro card. You're at the top of your game. You're working with 5-time Miss Olympia, like completely different. But it was again, when I look at the foundation and her and everything, that was our growth. Had you told me when she was living on tuna for prep and I was living out of my car that we were going to be able to order filet mignon and Butcher Box and go, I'd be like, how the hell am I going to get there? That's, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, or you can see, you're standing at A and you can see C, but how the hell do you get through B to get there? and that's what I think I try and, I don't know, teach or instill or push through people is you don't always know. I don't know what the hell is going to happen tomorrow or what's going to be like. I know that I'm going to get through today, push through today the best I can. I like to prepare, but what I've learned in life is no matter how much you prepare, God or whoever you believe in is liable to come along and kick you in the balls and go, yeah, that was a good plan, but that's not the way it's going to work. We're going to make it work this way. And, have a backup or hope you have a backup, but you really just try and go, I certainly have goals and I certainly have things laid out, but if something doesn't work or something doesn't change, doesn't go the way I thought it was going to, that's okay. You'll figure it out, So, I don't know. It's a very different perspective now.
Yeah. I have two questions about your relationship with Sofia.
Okay.
The first one, I think I know where you're going to go with that. And then so that's probably going to be a short answer. And then the second answer is more what I'm going for. Did you two prefer honesty over harmony?
Honesty over harmony.
That
yes.
You two were more
absolutely
honest rather than try to create a false narrative that...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And with bodybuilding, that's why. Because you have to be critical. My biggest thing right now, prepping by myself, is, I think I told you when I got here, I was like, man, I feel like shit. I'm 2 weeks out. As far as I'm concerned, I look horrible. I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, God, you look like shit. This is not good.
I do that every morning.
But she would be able to look at me and go, babe, this is okay. You're holding a little bit of fat here. But like bodybuilding is the only sport where you strip down to next to nothing and you stand in front of 7 judges who are going to tell you what the fuck is wrong with you. Who does that? It's horrible. It's the stupidest sport ever. And I love it. And she was the same way. So harmony would be going, babe, you look great. You're going to crush this. And then you go get 10th, The honesty is, we got to tighten up your glutes a little bit and work on this. So having done that through bodybuilding, I think it just bled through to everything else. One of the things that it was so sincere with her and I, and it sounds so freaking corny, is I would cook dinner almost every night. And she would make the salad or she would make the dessert. Like she was my sous chef. Like she would do all the little stuff. And we would make it and we would go sit down and we'd sit down and we'd pull our TV trays out and we'd sit down in the living room and we'd start watching TV and we'd get done eating. And over and over and over again, we would get done and she would say, usually her first, she would go, babe, dinner was really, really good. Thank you for making dinner. Sincerely, not kissing my ass or blowing smoke. And I'd be like, oh, thank you, babe. I don't know. The steak seemed kind of dry or the chicken. No, I liked it. Or she'd be honest and be like, that wasn't the best. But she would always start it off. And I would go, well, thank you. I said, I couldn't make a salad without you, which 4 years later, I still suck at making salads. I literally had a temper tantrum about a month after she passed trying to make a dessert that she made that I couldn't make. And it was a disaster. And I sat in the middle of my kitchen floor, bawling my eyes out because I fucked up brownies that she made, these keto brownies. Anyway, and I would thank her for that. And then we would get up and we would go in and we'd kind of clean the kitchen up together and dishes. And I'd thank her and she'd thank me. And it wasn't corny. Like when I say it and I hear it, I'm like, nobody does that. That's corny as shit. But we just did. So the honesty part was a big thing for us, all the way through. And I think a lot of it was because of the bodybuilding and what we did.
Yeah. Small tangent. There was an episode with on the Huberman Lab podcast where they were talking about stupid compassion, where it's like harmony. You're just saying it because it's the nice thing to say, not the good thing to say. Just a tangent. Yeah. The second question I had was, is that kind of along the lines of honesty without kindness is brutality and kindness without honesty is manipulation?
What was the second part? Kindness without honesty
is manipulation.
Yes, definitely. And the first part was what?
Honesty without kindness is brutality.
Honesty without kindness.
When you're honest with someone without being kind about it.
Yeah. That completely makes sense. And I think it's the way you present it, obviously. From a bodybuilding standpoint, again, I could say, hey, we need to work on your glute ham tie-ins, but man, your quads look freaking great, and you teach that, you try and teach that to your little kids. You always try and put if you're going to correct somebody or you're going to reprimand somebody, you put a good with a bad. From a leadership standpoint, do you know how many business leaders suck at that? If you're going to bring somebody in your office, you're going to chew them out for screwing something up. That's good, but give them something positive. I've had some crappy bosses in my life. I've got them now. And sometimes I'm like, do you know all the good stuff I do for this school? And you're going to rip me over a report that I did that you didn't like or whatever it was. So that's huge. And that's something that, from a leadership standpoint is big, but it ties into every other part of your life, every other relationship in your life.
Yeah. And so does that have to do with sincerity is more a reflection of who you are? If you can't be sincere about something, then your mindset should be like obviously not every day is going to be a good day. Not everything's going to be good, but as long as you're positive through it and not like toxic positivity, like lying to yourself, but at least as long as you see it as a good thing. Like, yes, this is, because in my mind, there's always, there's winning and losing, but I see that like everything that God gives me is either an opportunity or a lesson.
Yeah.
So either way I can grow.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is that have to do with when people don't have, or let's see, what's that quote? That a man's heart is a reflection of how he sees the world. So if your heart isn't on the positive side and you can't be honest without being kind, then that's more a reflection on the way that you see yourself.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things you see with little kids and with animals. People always talk about, oh, you get brutal honesty from a little kid, you get brutal honesty from an animal. If an animal doesn't like you, I'm always like, you're probably not a good person. Why is that dog growling at you? But not always, but a lot of times how you are with animals and how little kids approach you, because they don't have that cynical part in them. They're looking at everybody as, what's good and what's perfect. And, with me, I was telling somebody the other day, I have so much freaking anger inside of me from everything that's happened. And it doesn't come out,
Why is it anger?
I don't know who I'm mad at. I don't know the world for everything that's happened to me. I think, it'll come out in my thoughts. It'll come out.
Is it anger or frustration?
No, it's anger. I will be mad at when I see it come out. It'll be because somebody screwed my order up at the drive-through, something like that. And that's when I notice myself feeling it. The anger is much bigger than that. A week, maybe 2 weeks after everything had happened with Sofia, I was sitting in the parking lot at the gym and I pulled in and I had just gotten the necklace. So I guess it was a little bit longer than that. I had just gotten the necklace and I was sitting in the parking lot and I'm holding it in my hand and I'm looking at it and I'm crying and I'm talking to her and all this stuff. And parked like 5 spaces away was a cop and a yellow Corvette. And both the cop and the guy driving the yellow Corvette, big, tall, young guy, and they were both talking and kind of going back and forth. And I see them. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm sitting here like this. I have my door open, my driver's side door open. And I'm looking at them going through here. And all of a sudden I look up and I see the guy shove the cop and the cop like goes falling backwards on the ground. This guy takes off. He goes past my passenger side door without me even thinking. I am out the driver's side door. I still have this necklace in my hand, which I wouldn't want anything in the world to happen to it. But this is why I know I wasn't thinking. And I am booking it. My 50-some-year-old ass is going, and in my head, I'm like, I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to kill you. Don't let me. I don't even know what he did. Don't know what he was pulled over for. Don't even know what happened. I just saw the cop fall down and him haul ass running. And in my head, I was so mad and so angry at the world for the kids, for my mom, dad, brother, nephew, Sofia, Jim, you name it. I just wanted to take it out on somebody. And I am behind him. And and then I hear like these people yelling, stop chasing him, stop chasing him. And I'm, fuck that. And he has probably started 30 yards out ahead of me. And by the time we had made it to the end of the parking lot, I was about 5-6 feet behind him. And at that point, 2 more cop cars came pulling in. And they're like, get away from him. And I let him, I kind of, whoa, and I pulled up and I stopped. And they grab him and take him to the ground. And I'm huffing and puffing and standing there. The cop that got pushed over comes up to me and he's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? I was like, what? I was going to catch him and beat the shit out of him. And he goes, do you even know what happened or what he was doing? I go, I don't give a shit if he was jaywalking. I said, I was going to beat the fuck out of him. I don't know what was going on. And he goes, he just carjacked and shot somebody. That was the car that was on. And I caught him and he's armed and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't give a shit. But that's when it hit me that was a reaction. That wasn't me being a good citizen. That wasn't me. That was me pissed off and angry at the world. And I just needed to take it out on somebody. That being said, I hope to God it never actually happens. And I do. I don't know what the situation would be. You know, I think if somebody were to do something that hurt, you know, my family or me or somebody I care about, that's what it would kind of be. I liken it to the old Incredible Hulk, where he was like, you know, Mr. Quiet, nice guy, scientist, and you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. And then he tried. That's a super exaggeration, but it's that part of me that is inside of me. And I honestly hope it never comes out, but I know it's in there. And from time to time, it's not every day, it's not even every week, but randomly something will click and I'm like, oh no. And then I'm like, whoa. That is not who you are. You need to.
Is it more of like an amygdala reaction?
I guess it could be. Yeah, I guess it could be.
That like your amygdala is just taking over.
Yeah.
Like it's not, there's no like taking a breath so that your prefrontal cortex can process the information. Okay.
Right. It's not all the time, and it's not on little stuff. It's not on little stuff like, I mean, I have bad shit happen every day. Like I told you, my phone broke yesterday and my air conditioning in my car broke. That doesn't bother me. It irritates me. I'm like, oh, crap. There was a time in my life where that would have been a huge issue. This piece of shit. Now I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. So I don't know what it is that triggers it, but that makes good sense because there's something that will trigger it or flip that switch. And again, it's not something I ever act out on, but it's something that I feel, and I kind of have to reprocess and go, you're okay. Just don't do whatever you were thinking about. I don't even know what the hell, when I say don't do what you were going to do, I don't even know what that was. I just know I have that feeling inside of me. And I always liken back to when that guy ran past me that had knocked the cop down. I know I didn't think about it because I had this in my hand. And if I had thought, I would have put this down so something didn't happen, got out and been like, oh, let me go be a good citizen or whatever. No, it was strict, raw emotion and passion. So
that never turns out well.
No, probably not. Probably not. And the older I get, the less apt it's going to turn out well anyway.
It's just like you're buff as hell, but
yeah,
then you're also senile.
Right. I'm like, well, these are pretty muscles. These are not for anything that's actually to do anything. Kids are like, Mr. Kirk, I'm like, I'm not lifting shit. Why does everybody always want me to help them move? No, go hire somebody to help them move. I don't want to do that.
You're telling me if I poke you with a toothpick, you'll wait.
It's like the old Bugs Bunny where and you swell up. Yeah. So it's I don't know. It's at the end of the day, it's what we've gone back to 2 or 3 times. I look at myself and handfuls of other people and just say, I get it. And there's so many ways you can look at that, but just, I get it. You get what's important. You get what makes a difference. You get what matters. You get what doesn't. And somewhere through all of this bullshit, I hope to pass that on to other people, because I didn't always get it. I didn't get it when I told Heather, doesn't help right now, does it? And hung up the phone. I sure as hell didn't get it then. I got it when I got over there and she ripped me a new one for it. But you know what I mean? But I didn't get it. Yeah. So, you know, I say that and a lot of people don't understand what I mean. I'm like, no, you just get it. The people that get it have been through something. And it could be anything. It could be, you know, having been in the military or at war. It could be something with a spouse. It could have been abuse. It could have been drugs. It could have been suicide. There's so many different things. But at some point, certain people in this world just get it. And when you do, it makes such a difference.
I've been wanting to say this quote for like the last, 30 minutes or something, but you keep going on other tangents. This kind of works, kind of doesn't. Screw it. I'm going to say it anyways. If you have been brutally broken, but still have the courage to be gentle to other living beings, then you're a badass with the heart of an angel. Keanu Reeves.
What's that from?
I have no idea, but it's a quote and I liked it.
I like that. I love him anyway. That's somebody that gets it. You know, have you ever seen him? I mean, He's not pretentious. He's riding the subway. He's in jeans and shitty
He's one of the people that like, there might be some haters, but it's like overall, it's a good image. It's like a good person.
Yeah, that's a good quote.
You can't hate a good person.
No, that's a very, very good quote. Yeah. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say I'm a badass, but I'll take that. That's
the most dangerous thing that you'll probably ever see is a warrior in a garden. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, someone who's capable of great harm, but chooses not to. I know so many people like that. There's one guy, Jay, who just so happens to be black, and also the guy I'm lifting with. Going to one. It's okay. Not to be racist.
Is he 350? Because
no, he's 5'8".
Okay,
he's short, but I don't know what it is, but it's just like when I work out with a black guy, not being racist or anything. Work out with a black guy, I was like, there's nothing else I want to do other than lift because he's gonna criticize the heck out of me, and I know he's right.
Almost so my workout partners have been, for the most part, Jared, his brother Jairus, Skip, Aaron, all black guys, all bodybuilders, all straight badasses, and all literally when the workout starts. Put your fucking cell phone away, focus, do what you got to do. I mean, it was just phenomenal.
So Jay's episode goes up, I think, next week. He's the same way. It's like he's done Muay Thai, which is more of like striking than like I do jiu-jitsu, which is more groundwork. He's been doing that for I think 20, maybe 30 years. Like,
I'm not trying to get punched by somebody.
No, he can kick. It's like, yes, he can punch, like sure, but the kick. Legs are strong as hell. Yeah. I don't want to be on his bad side. And he's so capable of doing great harm. But the fact that he is such a kind-hearted guy, he's not even a teddy bear. He's just like a fluffy ball of fuzz. And it's funny how it's the most dangerous people are the ones that have like the best intentions, the best hearts. And they may not get everything they want in life, but they're so great about it. Like you want to be around them because there's something about them that you don't want to also experience that they've gone through. And it's like, can I just have that mindset without having to go through the same amount of trauma? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, you can just, it's like exposure therapy. The more you expose yourself, the more the 5 closest people to you will define who you are. It's like, I love the guy. Dave's gone through a boatload of stuff in his life. I want to do another episode with him and talk about his childhood. Like that was great stories. I don't know how I was going with that. It's just good to know that there's people that it doesn't like, you don't have to go, sure, Jocko's a great guy. Joe Rogan's probably a great guy. Like they're good people, but they don't have to be famous in order for you to find that same personality with someone that you can meet.
I was on a podcast and I don't remember which one. And he was talking about one of the big influencers. Who's the other one besides Jocko?
There's a lot.
One of the big ones, basically like that. And he said, we were talking about my diet. And he said something about having a cheat meal or something. And I said, I don't really have cheat meals because I don't call them that. I said, if I know it's going to be somebody's birthday this weekend, I'm on my diet, I work it into my plan and it is what it is. And he goes, I asked because I had whoever this influencer was on my podcast. And he said, I said something about a cheat meal. And he was like, fuck no, you don't ever have a cheat meal. If you have a cheat meal, you're a pussy. You're not strong. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you that. And he goes, well, that's his whole persona is, what, your mom died? You need to take your shoes off and go walk through glass. And no, you don't. You can cry because your mom died, And I told him, I said, you're never going to get that from me, ever. I said, because I don't think that's realistic. That's a great persona, and it's a great way for you to have followers and a great way for you to sell books.
David Goggins?
No, I can't remember who. It was somebody along those lines. I remember
listening to something that David Goggins said, and he said that his mind is he has to say that because his mind has to be focused on that. Otherwise, it can't focus on it.
Well, what got me was the guy that was doing the podcast said at the end of the podcast, this guy's handler comes on and they're signing paperwork and they're talking about what they can put in and clips they can use and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh yeah, by the way, he goes, that whole thing about asking him if he has a cheat meal and him saying, fuck no, you're a pussy if you ever eat a cheat meal. He goes, every Friday night, we all go out and eat pizza and drink and bullshit. He goes, that's a persona. And I was like, and the guy goes, that was so disappointing to me that here's this big famous And I was like, yeah, you're never going to hear that from me because it's not realistic. Your mom died. You can cry. It's okay. You don't need to chew glass and run through fire and be a badass. You're going to have bad days. There's going to be shit that's going to go wrong. It's okay, you know? And you can be a badass and still have that go on. Both Goggins and Jocko, straight badasses, have done shit that 99.9% of the people could never, ever, ever do. But I'm betting you that at the end of the day, they both still have shitty days or bad days or days where they doubt themselves or what, you know, I mean, I think everybody does. So I wish I could remember who it was, but the podcaster was funny because he was like, what? Huh? Yeah.
Humans like at the core are creatures of emotion.
Yeah.
Like no matter how tough someone's going to look, in the case of Goggins, he has a neurodivergent mind that like that's, if he doesn't say that to himself, it's not going to get done. It's like, that's like, I don't think I'll ever understand it, but that's a definite, like, that works for him.
Yeah.
It's like, I also hear this from like my sister or like some friends of mine. It's like, oh, those people, that person, I don't understand them. Like I never worked, like I've never listened to their podcast. Like I don't relate to them. It's like, you don't have to relate to everything that they say. It's not a one size fits all. It's what's the best lessons you learn from this.
Oh yeah.
Like I was listening to one of the Huberman episode I was talking about earlier. It's a 3-hour long episode and it related to everything I've been trying to like process the last couple of weeks. It's like, I don't listen to a lot of Huberman stuff. I don't listen to whoever that was talking about, but the entire conversation was so relevant to what I was doing. It was like, and the only reason why I listened to the episode is like, I got to this level of like, I'm desperate for an answer.
Right.
At least for me, it's like usually a problem. It's like, I have to get to a certain level of being desperate in order for me to like, to be open to change, open to doing something new, because otherwise I don't want to try.
Well, one of the things that I think is cool is you never know what you're going to say or what you're going to do that somebody's watching that'll change them. And like I said, I randomly will get messages on social media from this guy I was talking about the other day. I don't know this guy. You know, I'll have people come up to me, like I said, at a show and, hey, I watch your and Sophia's food videos and blah, blah, blah. And you made such a difference. I had a guy, this was a couple years ago, and I had told the story about her at 4:15 or 4:30 getting up and her feet hitting the ground and going. And he was dealing with some emotional stuff. And he's like, all I can think about, and it was a young kid, he goes, all I can think about is you and Miss Sophia. And the fact that when the alarm goes off, you said that her feet would hit the ground and she just goes no matter what. And he goes, that just replays in my head over and over and over again. And I'm like, how fucking cool is that? I said that being silly, not thinking, but you never know who's watching. You never know who's listening. You never know who's going through something where one thing that you said, might be the thing that changes their world, saves their lives, whatever it is. I mean, that sounds kind of corny, but it's true. So when you watch these different influencers and podcasters and everything, you're looking for that little nugget.
Just one thing to figure out, to explain what I can't understand.
Yeah, I agree.
And going off of that, I was talking to Dave. We were just in the cafe at XCal, and he was just talking, and then out of nowhere, or somewhere along the lines, he says, above one of the camps that he was at when he was a Marine in Afghanistan, is the words "complacency kills." I have not gotten that out of my head. Like every single time I'm like, nope, complacency kills. Like, okay, well, that's true. And that recurs through my mind all the time. Emily Lefebvre, who I think I mentioned earlier, I was texting her about something and she was like, there's a difference between how you're doing and how you feel. And I'm like, what? I still don't make the distinction between how I think or how I'm doing and how I feel. Like if I'm doing really good stuff, I feel great. If I'm not doing so much, I fix that and then I can feel great again. But surprisingly, when she told me that, now like whenever, especially like with women who seem like they're just like there's something emotional that they're trying to process or anything, I'll be like, how are you feeling? It's like instant snap. Like they start opening up, and I'm like, are you telling me this one sentence is all I had to do? And
that's awesome.
And I'm not saying that to like, am I trying to date you or something? It's more of like,
just to be able to understand.
Yeah.
And the complacency thing, when you say that, what is complacency? It's lack of growth. lack of growing. You're being complacent. You're in the same spot. You're stuck. You're in a rut.
In the context that Dave was talking about, it was more of complacency was you doing the same thing over and over and start getting used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And in case of the camp, it's like if you're a Marine on the perimeter, you can't say, "Oh, nothing happened
I've done this
yesterday.
100 times.
Nothing
No
happened
big
the day
deal."
before."
Right.
So
Today could be that day.
Partially it's growth. It's partially just being comfortable with the monotonous stuff, just doing the same thing over and over, but also not insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. It's like there's complacency of, I need to keep doing this because most people fail with the complacency. Like I've not seen progress with it. There's also the other side. It's like, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground to it.
That makes sense. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Are you getting tired?
I'm
A little
always
bit?
tired.
Okay,
I feel
good.
tired.
All right. Do you want to take a break, or do you want to, like, is there anything else you wanted to kind of talk about, or?
No, wherever you want to go. I'm golden.
Yeah, I'll probably have like underneath the episode notes and just have like a bunch of different stuff related to this. And you said the 2 pages, the page 3 and 4 were good, like all the
Awesome.
information.
Yeah. How long does it take you to go through and edit everything? And it's got to be.
Well, so this is what, 2.5 so far. So at least, let's say this is like a total of 3 hours, at least 7 hours to edit everything, because I have to go through everything again, make sure I don't, screw up something while I'm editing. And then also there's rendering and then uploading, because I upload at the highest quality. Yeah. So this might be 150 gigabytes of stuff. Some people, they condense that down to like 20 or something, then upload it to YouTube. I'd take the entire thing and just like, here, YouTube, have fun with it. Yeah. And like visually, like for me, it looks like visually I can see there's not as much banding and everything. So I like it better. I'm sure YouTube hates it, but it's like it has to compress this massive file to a smaller file rather than smaller file to a smaller file. Okay. So just it like visually looks better. It's a one-time upload. I do everything in the cloud, so I don't have to do it on my computer, which would be a pain.
But to go through, like you'll finish this up and go, okay, you already kind of have an idea of what you're trying to do, the story, the order, you know what I mean? Like, because you got just from so many notes and so much stuff that you have.
Mine's more linear, unless...
I mean, it's almost like you're writing a book every single time. You're writing you know what I mean? I
don't know if it was Oscar Wilde or someone that said that most writers or most authors don't write with the end in mind, but rather just write with the journey in mind. Like, where do you want to go with it?
Yeah.
So there are exceptions, like Joe Rudd's episode, which he got, I think I sent it to you, he got shot in the face.
Oh, yeah.
So that one, I changed that around because we talked about that, like, middle-ish of the podcast.
And
I put that
have
in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just because it was like, it took time to warm up for it, but it's a story.
That's the whole key, yeah.
Yeah. And in that case, I usually have a disclaimer in the beginning, like, it's not linear.
That's very cool.
In this case, it would be just, everything kind of fit pretty well, so I'm not going to do, it's mostly just going to be like taking out the ums and uhs and unnecessary pauses.
Is it a lot easier now than the first one you did? Like,
first one, geez.
Was it a nightmare?
Like 24 episodes in. So yeah, the first one I did that on my iPad. So
oh wow,
it was a 1-camera setup now to use my computer for everything. But it's not that it gets easier. Just
what
my subconscious I can do it more subconsciously than I can consciously. It's like there's not as much effort I have to go into it. It's just caffeine and passively. No, you pretty much that covered everything that I have in my notes.
I was impressed with those. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, this is good.
Hey, it makes it easier to do the episode.
Good. Yeah, it was really good.
And there was a lot of connections I didn't even think I was going to make today. And there's some quotes that I wanted to say, but I was like, I forgot what it was. It's like that the 3-1. The first time is a random occurrence. Second is a coincidence. Third is a pattern. That's what I was trying to go for.
When I get signals and stuff from her. Yeah. My biggest thing I wanted to talk about, which we did, was that really I've only been talking about and using for the last couple of weeks, is that grief doesn't stop greatness. And I say that and I'm like, that sounds kind of corny, like, oh, I'm this great.
Yeah, but
it's not what I mean. But I still feel like that's the path that we were on. Yeah. And I feel like losing her could have stopped it. And instead of having it break me, you have it build you. Instead, grief doesn't have to break you. Grief can build you. And that's, I don't even remember what the hell I was doing or talking about a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, ooh, that kind of hits. I kind of like that. It makes sense, as you go through it, because like I've always been, I'm the funny guy. I'm happy. I'm still that person. If I didn't tell my story at school, kids would have no idea. No idea. It's funny because randomly kids will come in, they get put in my class halfway through the year. They missed my story. They don't know anything about it. And in my room, I've got up Sofia Graham Foundation, picture her and different stuff around there. My nutrition company, Swole Kitchen thing is in there.
Yeah,
and we'll be
visualize them early.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about different stuff. And I'll have I'm trying to think of some of the stuff that it's been, but I'll have the kids say something, not knowing the story, and you'll have the rest of the class will like snap on them. Don't you know? And they're like, no, I came in late. What are you talking about? Sofia, you don't know who Sofia is? Or, you know what I mean? Or I walked in one day and there were two kids arguing. I said, what are you guys doing? Nothing. We were arm wrestling and I just told him that he was a little bitch and that Sofia could definitely beat him because she had bigger biceps. I was like, you've got to be my Sofia? And they're like, yeah. And I go, oh my God, you guys have got to be kidding me. She was 4'10", but okay. Like, it was so funny. So I love that the kids like take to that and are part of it. I had a conversation with a couple girls at the end of the year this year, and we were talking about them. I had two of them I had 2 years ago as freshmen, and they're juniors now, or going to seniors. And they were just talking about school and the job and different stuff in my class. And she's like, yeah, but do you know how many people you've made a difference here for, Mr. Kirk, or something? And I said, no, I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I said, but the flip side of it is, I said, you guys have saved my life 1,000,000 times. I come in here every day. I said, I am far worse off mentally on weekends and summer break. Now, I said, don't get me wrong. I like to not be here because God knows I get tired of dealing with you little pains in the ass. I told him that. I said, but I like being here. I like being able to be in front of you guys and talk to you guys. And, my big thing is when I close that door, I have a curriculum, but when I close that door, that's my time. And nobody necessarily knows what we talk about. We go off on tangents. We'll be in the middle of talking about carbohydrates and glycogen and something, and somebody will bring something up, and we will go, let's just no different than I am in a damn podcast. And we end up down some wormhole somewhere talking about crazy stuff. There was a lady I met from another school. She was a nutrition teacher. And she was like, oh, today I was teaching the kids how to julienne a carrot, how to like cut it up, right? Well, we don't do anything like that. And she goes, Mr. Kirk, what were you teaching today? And I said, we were talking about conspiracy theories in the pharmaceutical industry. And she goes, what does that have to do with nutrition? I said, statin drugs to start with. I said, it's a $21 billion a year business. And what's statins for? I said, first of all, statin drugs are absolutely awful. There are so many side effects that are bad for you. But the next part of it is it's to control your cholesterol. And that's a huge myth. I said, there's so much more information and good stuff on cholesterol now than what there was. And on top of that, if you did want to control your cholesterol, do you want to take a statin drug or would you rather change your diet and nutrition? That's how it ties into my class. And she was like, oh, is that in our curriculum? I'm like, well, it's in mine. So, it is kind of is how it is. So, yeah, I just like it. That's the part of the job that I like. And you never would have been able to convince me that I would want to be a school teacher. Hell no, I don't want to do that. The difference of that versus any other job I've had is at 2:05 when I walk out of my classroom, I'm done. I close my door and I leave and that's it. Whereas every other job I've had, sales job, running my own businesses, it's 24 hours a day. And having like stuff at your house, it'll be Saturday afternoon at 4:00 and you just got home from a picnic and you're getting ready to do something or go out and you're like, shit, I need to edit that thing real quick. And you'll sit down and do 2 hours worth of work. I don't do that teaching. I leave and I'm out and I go focus on foundation stuff and other work. So it's tough sometimes working at home and doing your own thing. This I can kind of compartmentalize, but what I was going with was nobody, if I didn't tell everybody, nobody would know. I don't have a problem telling anybody that, what time is it today? It's, 2:30, 3:00. I haven't cried yet today, but that means somewhere between now and 10 tonight, I'm probably going to have a tear run down my face, I don't care. But if I didn't tell anybody that, nobody would assume that because that's not the me that I portray. I don't walk around, oh, woe is me. I have, people tell me all the time, but you seem like you're so happy. I am. I'm genuinely happy. I have fun at school. I laugh with my kids. I get out. I go to the gym. I have a good workout. I go eat good food. I talk to my friends. I watch TV, movies, whatever. Like, I'm genuinely happy. But at a core level, I'm sad. And I'm always going to be sad. No, you won't. Yeah, there's never going to be that day in my life when I wake up and I don't miss her and I don't love her. There will never be that day. So why, and I said, I'm okay with that. That's the cards I was dealt. This is what it is. I'm not going to mope, and go, it was like, would you say, about how you react to something or whether you let it control you. And you make it part of you, and that it is what it is. So I'm a happy person, but I'm always going to be sad. But who the hell wants to be around somebody that's always sad? And, I'll sit and watch YouTube videos or reels or TikTok or whatever it is, laughing my ass off. It's the stupidest things, right? Cat videos and whatever else dumb shit's on there. And then all of a sudden there'll be something where somebody rescues a dodo bird that was stuck in a tree. And I'm like, oh, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, it's a hot mess. And I'm like, how the hell did I just end up here? From some like Hallmark commercial came on and I'm bawling my eyes out at it. I'm like, oh my God. I was watching something a couple of weeks ago. It was a Friday night, and Dave, my buddy that helped me come up with the idea for the foundation, he's in North Carolina, and he messaged me. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was watching, God, what was it? Pitch Perfect or something stupid. And he goes, what? And I go, oh, don't even start with me. You know damn well Glee is your favorite thing that you ever watched. So don't even. I said, don't make me go online and bust your balls and put that out for everybody. And he's like, really? Well, which episode of Pitch Perfect are you going? Motherfucker, 3. I'm watching all of them tonight. We're binge watching them. What are you talking about? It is what it is. So I don't know. You gotta figure out how to take it all, and deal with it. A lot of it is from my mom and dad. Both my sisters are in their 70s now, and they talk about stuff all the time. Well, that's how mom and dad raised us. I remember when I was 6, you start playing t-ball, at 5, I guess, probably little league t-ball, 5, 6. So I was past the age where you could play t-ball, where they set the ball on the tee and you hit it off. There's no pitching. So I had to go in and actually play baseball where they pitched it to you. I go to tryouts. Tryouts are like 2 or 3 days in a row. I've never played baseball. I know nothing about it. Never held a bat, never held a glove, anything. I remember my mom coming to pick me up after practice, and she's walking with the coach. I have no idea who the coach is, but I still picture him vividly. He looked like dude from Duck Dynasty. Big, white, rednecky dude, beard, and he's walking through with his clipboard and his baseball hat on, right? And she was like, well, what about my son? What team is he going to go on? And he goes, honestly, ma'am, your son needs to go back to t-ball. Doesn't look like he's ever played before. He needs to go back to t-ball. And my mom goes, well, he's too old to play t-ball now. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Meaning, like, I need to not play baseball. And my mom knew I wanted to play baseball. I don't remember why the hell I wanted to, but I did. And she went home and told my dad. And my dad goes, well, fuck them. I'll coach your team. They can't tell me you can't play if I'm coach. And my dad stepped up and was freaking coach of the team. And I sucked. I got good after that, 2, 3, 4 years later, and I ended up catching. I played all the way through, high school and was decent. But I look at that, and that's just how they reacted to something. That was something that was a gut punch, and you accept it, but you don't.
Did your parents have the mindset of just, like, if someone else can't do it yourself?
Probably. So when I was born, I don't know what it's called. I probably wasn't a name for it back in the 1400s when I was born, but my legs were all jacked up. So they had to go in and break all the bones in my legs and straighten them up and put them back together. So until I was 2 or 3, I was in casts. I'm like freaking Forrest Gump. So I'm in casts in my legs, right? And they told my mom when I was like a year old that these bones were bad, blah, blah. And I only know this because my mom told the story. And they said, well, Miss Kirk, they said, your son will never walk. And my mom's answer was, my son? The hell he won't. You watch my son walk. And she used to tell me that when I was little. She's like, they said you were never going to walk. And she said, what you would do is when the cast would come off and I would get to come home for a couple of days, and she would take my feet and move my feet and stretch them and move them and do all this stuff. So I think about that now, you know, where bodybuilding is such a huge part of my life. Well, at one point before my mom passed away, she had had a series of strokes. She was in a coma for 28 days. She comes out of the coma. They send her home, put her in hospice. They tell us she's probably only going to live like, 30, 60 days. His mom doesn't have a lot of time left. And they said, she's definitely never going to be able to walk. And I remember that hit me. And I told the doctor, I said, my mom never going to be able to walk? The hell she's not. And when we got home, sure enough, I would tell mom, I'm like, come on, give me your legs. And I'd take her legs and we'd move them and we'd exercise them and we'd switch them around. And it got to be where my mom, so she lived 5 years. She got kicked out of 3 hospice because she was doing so well. So she just, defied those odds. But I remember telling her, I'm like, you told me when I was born and I was little that they said I would never walk. And you said that. And so I'm doing the exact same thing. This is payback. I'm going to do the same thing for you. So it's just a lot of what was instilled in us, from mom and dad. I don't miss days at school ever. Not if I'm sick, you go to work. That's what my dad did. It was different. I know so many teachers that don't have any leave. Why don't you have any leave? Oh, I took a mental health day here and blah, blah, blah. No.
They have mental health days now?
Well, they take it and that's what they need, And I'm like, I get up and go to work. I don't know what to tell you, So there's just a lot, I think, that's instilled in me from, who we are growing up, or kind of how we're taught to handle stuff. But that the little league thing just still sticks with me. And I tell the kids all the time, the things that happen to you when you're little and how they affect you later on. There's one thing that everybody still laughs at, and every kid who's come through my class knows the name Mrs. Costas. And the reason is Mrs. Costas was my 3rd grade math teacher. Every kid in my school knows this. And the reason is in 3rd grade, so 1st and 2nd grade, you don't really get grades. You get O's and S's or whatever, right? In 3rd grade, you start getting grades. So I had a different teacher, but we split up and we went to different teachers' rooms for the first time for math and English and this kind of stuff. Miss Costas was my teacher. Couldn't tell you what she looks like, but in my mind, what's ingrained is the Wicked Witch of the West. That's what I picked. She was black hair, Greek lady, but I'm pretty sure her skin was green. She had a freaking broom she flew on. That is what I picture her as. And I will never, ever forget. I was fine with math up until then, and all the way through high school and college. I had decent grades, A, B honor roll, nothing great, but 3rd grade, she's passing. We all took a test. God knows what it was on. 3rd grade, addition, subtraction, something, and she's passing out papers and she's walking through and she puts this one down on, somebody's desk. And she goes, B, C, D, A, and she gets to my desk and she puts it down and she looks at me and she goes, F, what are you, stupid? 3rd grade. Now this is 1974, 5, 6, whatever it is. That crushed me. Never told anybody. I went home bawling my eyes out. My mom's like, what's wrong? Did something happen at school? No, I'm okay. I'd never, ever, ever told what was going on because I didn't want her to get in trouble or something else to happen, right? That ended my math career. Done. I'm pretty sure I was Einstein up until that point. I was going to have math problems. Nope, that fucked it up. After that, math and I were enemies because of what happened to me when I was, and I'm still as old as I am now, I hate math. Can't stand it. We got to do math? Oh, fuck that. Give me my phone. Where's my computer? How do you do it? And I tell the kids that story when we're talking about mental health stuff and your upbringing, how things that happen to you when you're younger affect you so much. But what makes me laugh now is I have kids that graduated 6, 7 years ago that will come back and visit. And they're like, so how's Miss Costas? You ever see her? And I'm like, you know what? Screw you. And I'm pretty sure Miss Costas would be about 170 if she were still alive. So I don't
She would really look like a Wicked Witch of the West.
I think we're okay right now. But it makes me laugh that these kids actually listen to that. I'm like, you didn't get shit. I tried to explain to you about protein synthesis, but you remember my damn story about Miss Costas. Okay, as long as you got something out of it. I remember that. As long as you got something out of it, we're okay. But I definitely think a lot of, who I am was just because of what my mom and dad instilled in me. And I didn't have a bad childhood. Like I said, I had a freaking great childhood. I had a better childhood than my older sisters and brothers, because when my mom and dad first got married, they had 3 kids in a series of 5 years. Dad's working 2 different jobs and they're living in an apartment, and it's 50s, 60s are trying to put stuff together. And by the time they had me, Dad had a good job and an income and a big house and a swimming pool. And, we did the homecoming floats for high school at my house and stuff like that. My childhood was great. So it really wasn't until my nephew and niece were murdered where, like I said, that was the first time when I got a real gut punch and went, oh, shit really can happen to people, And I didn't have any idea, how to process that. With my brother, they drugged him. The doctors all, well, okay, you know what? He's going to go off the deep end. And they put my brother on all kinds of antidepressants and mood stabilizers and this, that. And for probably 6 or 7 years, he was on all kinds of drugs that they put him on. And he hated it. Why do I have to be on this stuff? Well, you should be, and blah, blah, And it's kind of like what you said earlier. It's not that nobody was ever trying to fix or help him. It was, you're on this because we're writing a prescription and it's doing, it's maybe it's not meant to be that evil, but when you step back and look at it, it kind of is.
Well, and my sister's going through medical school right now, and I'm not saying she's going to be like this, but she was talking about how if this and this happened, I'd have to prescribe this. Right. If this and this happened, then I would do that. Yeah. That's not literally like a
formula.
I don't think my sister is intentionally saying that as in the prescription is a one-time thing. I'm thinking of it more of she knows all the reasons why this prescription works, which is what medical school teaches you. It's here's all the science, here's everything you need to know. And it's I forgot the term for it, but it's an overwhelming amount of information. It's this is all the information, so this must be the only answer. And not so much this is all the information that builds to these answers for the person that it works for. Mm-hmm. Kind of going, did you have anything else? I'm going to go.
No, okay. Good.
Random tangent. I remember when I was in elementary school and I wasn't the athletic guy. I would love going to kickball and during recess and stuff. And I remember, so the elementary school was kind of let's say it's right here, the kickball field, and then the recess is over here. Kickball field's all the way at the corner. It's you're as far as from the teacher, it's just us kids. Maybe there's a teacher watching from here, but
yeah, you were way out.
This is the back of the bus. You're so far away from the driver, you feel like this is royalty. And so every time doing kickball, it was I wasn't the one, no one chose me, obviously. I wasn't one. I couldn't kick the ball anywhere. I couldn't catch the ball. I was always put in the spot that no one kicks to. And I was so excited. I still love doing it. And I just remember there was this one time someone kicked the ball and I was on the, there's a center of the field if you're looking towards where they're kicking. And I'm on the right side, but back. Okay. So it's kind of further back. And I remember the ball came right to me and I caught it. I was the only one who was genuinely, some people were surprised. Oh, you caught it. Yeah. You could do that? Everyone moved on from that. I was happy.
Yeah, that was your moment for a while.
I remember at the end of 6th grade, there was a run that I think it was just testing or something, or maybe we're just in the PE. And it was there's a kickball field, there's another, so that was a baseball field, there's another baseball field, and then there was this massive space in between, and people would play hide and go seek and zombie apocalypse and stuff. And I remember I was in 6th grade, I wasn't the most athletic, and everyone was running here, and they were kind of teaching how to get a jump start for a 100-meter jump.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was getting pumped up. I was I'm going to beat everyone here. And I start running. 3 seconds later, all the girls are passing me. I'm just this is not good for my ego. Worst off, one of the girls that I had a crush on, she passed me. I was wait a second, this is not fun. And I always had that little competitiveness when it was anything physical. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until 9th grade when there was this one girl that I liked in that grade, different girl. This is like, what, 4 years later? And not ninth grade, 10th grade. And she was in, no, ninth grade. Yeah, it wasn't 10th grade, ninth grade. This is a great storytelling. I don't remember anything. 10th grade or ninth grade, and she was in the same class as I was. And I don't know, maybe it was just like the human sex drive or something. Like, I wanted to impress her. That was pretty much all of PE. So like end of ninth grade and part of 10th, I was ripped. Like, I had a six-pack for the first time in my life. I don't have it anymore. Don't check. So, like, I don't have a six-pack anymore. Like, it was visible. I was like, whoa, you're looking good. I don't know what I was going with that. It's interesting how the competitiveness and like childhood as well as women, it's like when there's a goal that's like so desirable, it's like, I want to impress this person, or I want to feel good about this, or I caught the ball. It's like, it's surprising how, looking back, those things, I don't say like I don't chase women or anything. Like, I'm not like a what do they call it?
Womanizer or whatever.
Like,
Yeah.
Like, I find a lot of women attractive, but I've gotten to the point where like I can look at a woman and I can be like, you have so many problems. I'm not dealing with it.
That's why.
I did piano sales. So like, one of the things that a good friend of mine, which I might have on the podcast, he taught me was that you have to be able to understand your customer within like 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Like, you should know whether or not they're going to buy a piano or they're just browsing before you even like discuss like, what kind of piano do you want? No, you should be able to see based on who they are. So I can do that with like a lot of people, and I'm not always accurate, but
you're a good read of people.
It filters out 80% of the people I don't want to talk to. It's weird how like part of that, like, I'm sure somewhere in my elementary school, middle school, it was like, I was never the person that everyone wanted to talk to. I was always the oddball out, especially in elementary school. Like, I would bounce between cafeteria tables. Like, there was no group that I fit into. And that's just because my family, and now like my jiu-jitsu family, it's like, they're people who focus on growth, focus on becoming better than ever. Because my parents grew up in small villages in India and Sri Lanka. And in that culture, you're nothing if you don't excel in school. Like 10th grade, you get this one test, and if you don't pass it, you can't become a doctor. That's just how it is.
Okay, so that's a lot of pressure.
You can't be a doctor, you can't be an engineer, and that's successful. Even though, yes, maybe you might not make the most amount of money, that's intelligence, that's success, and you're not going to be an outcast. You're not going to just be another person doing random things. And that never really translated to the people I was with in elementary school, because their parents, well, I was in a pretty wealthy area, but their parents, like, they never instilled that same thing in their kids. Well, they might do now. Like, I see a lot of their LinkedIn profile pages that they're doing pretty good, but just at the time, like, they didn't share that same discipline. So like, and it came down to this weird thing where when I went from home to school, that bus ride was me mentally shifting from my home life to school life, and then back to my home life. It's like I lived in two different worlds. And
but that's a good ability to have, that young all the way up until.
But then I had like,
now
I didn't have the identity.
Yeah,
I didn't know what was the right thing to look at.
Yeah,
I know now, like, my parents were right 99% of the time, 98% of the time. But at the same time, like, if I didn't start doing jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't realize there's a lot of people reproducing just like my family. Oh, yeah. They're actually reproducing. They're not just stagnant. It's like, it's great. I kind of like what we said before. It's like what you focus on. I don't need to say it specifically, but what you focus on is what you become. Yeah. You want to focus on the trash? Focus on the trash. You want to focus on success? Focus on success. You want to be the one looking at the winner, or do you want to be the one winning? Yeah.
I never, like, from a kickball standpoint, I was little. I was tiny. I got a girl's name, a butt cut hair, with long hair feathered on the sides. And I was always like second to last picked, because somebody would pick me before last just because they liked me, but not because I was any good. And then I remember the first or second day of kindergarten on the swing sets out there. And this friend of mine, I still see him on Facebook. And we're swinging. And he looks over at me and he goes, "Hi, my name's Brian." I said, "Hi, Brian, I'm Kelly." And he goes, "Hi, Kelly." And he swings, and he looks at me and he goes, "Damn, you're short. Who says that in kindergarten?" And I remember coming home and telling my mom, and she was like, "Don't you worry about it. You're short, but that's okay." And like that, you talk about an identity, like that was my identity is, you know, especially in elementary school. All right, everybody line up for recess. Where do you line up? Either A to Z or shortest to tallest. Everybody line up for pictures. I was always the front line or the back line, however they were doing it. That's where I was going to end up, you know. And that was kind of my identity, but I never let it be a bad thing, you know, I guess. When I got to high school and I started wrestling, I remember my geometry teacher, maybe. He was a wrestling coach, Mr. Embry. And he's walking through, and this was back before taking attendance was on a computer. And he's walking through and he's like, all right, Steven, Michael, Susie, you know. And he goes, Kelly, Kirk. And I raise my hand and he looks at me and he goes, how much do you weigh? I said, I don't know, 90 pounds. And he goes, go home tonight and tell your parents you're starting varsity. I need a 98 pounder. You're going to wrestle this year. And I was like, okay. I don't know the first fucking thing about wrestling. I'm thinking it's WWE. I'm going to put an outfit on and go off the top rope. You know, that's what I know. So I wrestled that year and I started varsity and I wrestled, got my ass whipped. I could tell you how many tiles are in the ceiling of every gym in Northern Virginia because I laid there like this counting them over and over and over again. You know, and it took me a couple years. About my senior year, things were quite a bit different. But it was still that being little thing that got me into working out. When I was 15, my brother and his friends were lifting weights and working out, and I decided I needed to do the same thing. And, you know, you couldn't tell me. And then we worked at a gas station, and I'd roll my sleeves up on my little Exxon gas station. And again, it's funny what your perception is of yourself when you're little and kind of how that, you know, makes a difference to you today. And even now, you know, I'll go to Team Universe in a couple days and I'll be lightweight category. Last year I won Masters Nationals as a lightweight. Did not get a pro card because you have to win the overall, which means the guy that won the overall was 262 pounds. I had to weigh in at 154. I probably weighed 162. He's 100 pounds heavier than me. Now, that being said, my ego and attitude and looking at it, I can look at pictures of both of us side by side and I can make a case that it should have been me, that I should have been in there. But at the end of the day, it's bodybuilding and they still want size and muscle. So 100 pounds. But if you're looking at symmetry and shape and definition, I'm like, hey. But so like the little part still kind of shapes who I am. You know, I got an attitude from that. And the judges and my friends and all still laugh at me. And they're like, oh yeah, you mean last year when you took second? Fuck you. You know what? Maybe if I could gain 100 pounds, maybe it would be different. I was still leaner and better, and you know, but it's still definitely, you know, part of my personality. But it was one of those things where, again, mom and dad just never. I don't know. There wasn't pressure growing up. It was just positive. Everything was just always positive. You know, that baseball thing. Like I said, so many of my high school friends. It was nothing for me to get out of high school and come home, and I'm coming home to change my clothes and go to work, and I'd walk in and there's like 3 kids sitting in the kitchen talking to my mom. I'm like, who the fuck are they? They don't talk to me at school. You're talking to my mom. Like, and she's like, oh, hey. And I'm like, hey. And I'd say, hi. There'd be like 3 girls there, you know, one of them that I liked and was afraid to talk to or whatever. And I'm like, they're all fucking sitting talking to my mom and they don't say shit to me at school. What, you know, is this? So, I don't know. It's just, it's neat to me now to be able to look at kind of the everything that I always say, and this is part of what it is. And I don't know who said this, but I have it up in my room and it says, grow through what you go through. And part of that starts when you're a little kid. You have to grow through what, you know, everybody went through some shit when we were a kid, whether it was kickball or failing a test or your parents sucked or whatever it was. We all went through. But the same thing as you get to be an adult, and now the issues are losing somebody, drug addiction, jail, money, relationships. You got to grow through what you go through. And I had that sign up in my room, and I asked the kids in the beginning of the year, you know, what do you guys think about that? What's it mean? Oh, just that you gotta, I don't know, deal with whatever. Well, yeah, but it's bigger than that. You got to deal with it and fail forward and take what it is and, you know, and grow and become something more because of it. So, I don't know. As the foundation grows and my leadership stuff grows, again, I thought it was just going to be this little organization and I was going to hand out a few free gym memberships and it was going to be kind of cool. And now I'm like, no, I want this at the top of everybody. You know, I want this on stage at the Olympia. I want to be, I have a message. Sofia has a message. I want to tell that message to everybody and affect everybody in a positive way. And that's me growing through what I went through, you know, growing through what I go through, I guess.
I don't remember who said it specifically, but something along the line of the hard times aren't going to go less. There's going to be more things that are get even more difficult. It doesn't get easier from here, but rather you're more capable of handling those future things.
Oh, so it's funny. I tell people all the time, I just had a friend who went through a breakup. She was devastated. Oh my God. I remember those feelings. I told her, I said, you know, if I could take all those bad feelings from you and you could give them to me, I'd take them in a heartbeat because it literally would affect me this much now. You know, there was a time in my life where that would have affected me huge, but having been through the crap I've been through, you had a bad breakup? Okay, whatever. I got this, you know. Same thing with my car breaking down. You know, my car breaks down. Fuck, I'm sitting on the side of the road. It's 110 degrees out. I say this and now this is going to happen going home. You watch. And I'm going to be screaming and cussing and yelling. But normally, you know, now it happens and you look at it and you go, all right, I'll figure it out. It's okay. It is what it is. And you just, you take all the stuff that you've been through and you figure out it's not the end all be all. It's not the end of the world. And it takes me right back to it. You get it.
Yeah. So it's a part of the process. I hear, like, I'm usually hard on myself when it comes to a lot of things. And a lot of people that I respect look at me and they're like, you should take it easy. Take it a little bit easier. And then I realized they are saying that because they went through that. But more importantly, I have to go through it so that, because if I don't go through it, I won't learn from it. We
are our own worst critics. It's probably hard for you to sit here and look at your podcast and go, I should have this many views. And dude, is it not, or is it? It is, right? Yeah. And I walked in and I went, dude, this is a badass setup, because I've done 30 or so podcasts that look nothing like this. And I've told you, you know, I love the interviewing style. I love the question. We're our own worst critics, always. And it's very hard for us sometimes to be able to look at us realistically. Bodybuilding, it's that way. I either look in the mirror and go, damn, I look good. And then I take a picture and go, ooh, that's not right. Or I think I look like shit, you know, and you go win a show or somebody else says you look good. You're always your own worst critic, which is why I, you know, told the kids, if you ever feel bad about yourself, go to Walmart and walk around, go to King's Dominion and walk around, or turn on My Strange Addiction and watch the lady that eats bricks. And you're going to be like, you know what? I'm okay, because I am not pulling over and eating bricks, for God's sakes.
Do you have anything else, or do you want? I got two last questions.
No, go with it. That's it. I don't have anything crazy.
All right. This is the two questions I ask everyone, as much as I remember. What would you have? You're what, 56, you said?
Yep.
Okay.
Damn. Physically, mentally about 15 and a half. There's a big difference.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Nothing changes. A quick story on that. Somebody was asking me about, how do you talk to teenagers or something? And I said, well, teenage girls, it's a little different. But I said, teenage guys, nothing changes. I said, once you get to like 12, whether you're 12, 28, 58, 98, you can talk about sports, boobs, cars, explosions, aliens. Like, there's about 8 subjects, video games. Like, there's literally, 8, 10 subjects that every guy on some level relates to. You just got to figure out which of those. And sometimes they overlap. Sometimes it's movie and boobs. Sometimes it's sports and car. You know what I mean? So I always have to laugh about that. Anyway, so that just made me think about that. So mentally, yeah, we're all the same. It makes no difference.
What would you have told yourself 30 years ago? And what do you want to tell yourself 10 years from now?
Ooh. What would I have said? What would I tell myself from 30 years ago? Hang on, it's going to get bumpy. Because I remember making almost $200,000 a year in a sales job, 2 or 3 cars, house, money coming in, life was good. and you could not convince me that this was not what life was always going to be. What? It's going to be bad? What? You know, my brother was a vice president of a huge repository company making 7 figures. House, family, you name it. Now he's on disability and struggles with the loss of, you know, his kids, and doesn't have that job and doesn't have the things he had. So he was the same way. You never think that it's going to take some turn. It's a reality. You know, I thought when I opened up the gym, when I decided to open the gym with my 2 best friends, I knew that it was a risk. And we talked about it. I'm like, we could lose everything if we do this. Do you really think it's going to happen? Fuck no, you don't think it's going to happen. Of course we're going to do it. We're badasses. No, I lost everything. I don't regret it. It helped make me into the person I am. I met the people that I met. So I would go back and tell myself from 30 years ago, enjoy the good times, but there will be storms and you'll be okay. You'll come out on the other side. Just know this isn't what it's always going to be. My brother and I were actually talking a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine, he and his wife, they're 30-ish, both very successful, both making tons of money, and they're buying cars and boats and traveling and doing different stuff. And my brother and I will talk to him or we'll hang out. And I'm like, Kev, do you remember being like that? And he's like, what? I'm like, being 30 and thinking this is the worst life's ever going to be, that there's no way I made it through high school. That was the hard part or whatever it is, you know? I said, I like hanging out with them and seeing them because I remember looking at life through that lens. I certainly don't now. Now I look at it and I appreciate the little stuff so much more than I did, because you take advantage of a lot of, or you take for granted a lot of the little stuff because you never think the big stuff is going to happen. You know, take away, if you look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you know you need your security, your roof over your head, your food, you need your basic needs met. Go through a time where you live in your car and you're eating a can of tuna with no fork, and suddenly your basic needs are gone. Changes everything. I would never in a million years be, take for granted the fact that I got food on my table, but I certainly did for a lot of decades. So yeah, I definitely go back and tell myself then, enjoy that I need to get it. Appreciate the little stuff, but no, it's not always going to be this easy. What would I go tell myself 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Or what am I saying 10 years ago? I hope I'm looking back at. I want to be proud of myself in 10 years. The biggest thing I say every day is I want Sofia to be proud of me. I know from the outside I've accomplished a lot of stuff and I'm a good person and blah, blah, blah. And I know my mom and dad are proud of me and I know Sofia's proud of me. But 10 years from now, I want to look back at myself and go, man, proud of you for going through all that. And I'm proud of myself on a daily basis. But like we talked about, we're our own worst critics. So I look down on everything. Why am I still living where the fuck I live? Why am I driving a piece of shit car whose air conditioning doesn't work? Why am I teaching, making 70 grand? Why don't you go get a real job? Why am I still crying every day? Well, you know what I mean? So I go through a lot of stuff like that. I want to be 10 years from now, I'm going to look back and go, okay, you kicked ass, and I think deep down I feel like that and I know it, but it's really hard to accept that and run with it all the time.
One question, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine.
Nope.
What would you have told yourself on August 1st, 2021?
So the year that it happened?
About
12 months later?
It happened on the 20...
Was it 2020 or 2021? See, now you got me. So right, the day after it happened.
I think it was... If I remember, it was like July...
It was July 30th when it happened.
30th.
Yeah.
Yeah, July 30th, so 31st. So this would be 2 days after.
For 2 days later. that she's not coming back, but she's not gone. 2 days into it, I just knew she wasn't coming back. I had no idea that she wasn't gone. And trying to stomach that she wasn't coming back was the worst thing I've ever been through. Part of why I'm able to go through days now and do what I do and survive and grow and move forward is because I know she's not gone. I've got so many signs. I know she's here. When I have somebody that has somebody pass away, first thing I tell them, everybody, oh, my condolences and blah. First thing I tell them, talk to them. Talk to them. I promise you, talk to them. I didn't talk to my mom and dad when they passed away. I didn't talk to my nephew and niece when they passed away. I had 1 or 2 things happen with each of them that you were like, ooh, kind of. So I sort of believe, but not like what I do now. I tell everybody, talk to them. They might not talk back, but talk to them. They're here. They hear you. They feel you. So I would go back and tell myself on that second day, she's not coming back, but she's not gone. And I think coming from myself 3.5, 4 years later, that I would believe that and internalize that. I'm sure people probably told me that. I'm sure I probably had somebody, oh, she's an angel and she's with you and looking over. Those are great when they're words. It's totally freaking different when you feel it and you believe it. So I would hope that I could go back and tell myself that now, and at 2 days later go, okay, I got to start doing something to look for. How do I find her? Where is she? How do I, you know what I mean? And I'm very sciencey. I'm not religious. I'm religiously. I'm sciencey. So I want some proof. I have faith, but I got a lot more faith in something happening. It's hard for me to comprehend angels. It's very easy for me to understand energy. Basic law of physics, you can't create or destroy energy. She was energy, or energy still here somewhere. That's very easy for me to process. Oh, she's an angel and she's, okay, but that's a little hokier, harder for me. So I think that would be it, is really just that, accept that she's gone and believe that she's still here.
You said she got cremated?
Mm-hmm.
And did you put her into the ocean?
She's all over the place. So she's in this necklace. Her mom has some of her ashes. She's buried in the same plot as her dad. Her dad passed away a little over a year before she did. So she's buried with her dad. Her mom has some of her ashes. I have some here.
I was just going to say there's probably a little bit of Sofia in everyone.
Yeah. I work the Mr. Olympia, and there may or may not be a few of her ashes on the stage at the Mr. Olympia. I'd be in a lot of trouble if somebody actually knew that, but maybe some of them, fell out of my pocket. And I was like, baby, you made it to the Olympia stage, the top of the, there's some of the beach. So, and I've got some still that I'll probably always keep. But,
so she's never gone.
No. And, I go to the cemetery twice a year, probably, in July and then maybe Christmas time. And I'll take a piece of pizza or gummy Swedish fish or something that she liked and leave them there. But mostly I clean up the headstone and I do that, and I'll take pictures and stuff. And I go there out of respect. I think in the beginning I went there because, oh my goodness, this is where she is, and let me go. My brother, when his kids were murdered, for the first year, he was at the cemetery every day. And he would literally sit at the cemetery and talk to Brittany and Connor and cry his eyes out and take care of it. And as he went through like I said, they had him on drugs for so long, which I never finished that story. But at the end of the day, he finally got off of everything. He finally said, no, I need to deal with what I need to deal with. And the doctors were able to get him off of all these antidepressants and blah, blah, blah. And he had to go through the event 8 years later. Like, what the... talk about a medical thing. That did nothing for him. But he went to the, and now he's, from a mental standpoint, he's fantastic, but it's 8 years, 9 years, 10 years past when he got off of everything and had to take the grief and accept it and deal with it. For the first couple of years, he was just numb. That's horrible. He didn't like that. But anyway, so he would go to the cemetery every day. And then when he finally, things changed and he stopped going every day, there was this huge sense of guilt. I'm not going to the cemetery. Kev, it's okay. They're not there. I don't have that with Sofia because I know she's not there. The other thing that I don't have, that I've told people is tell your friends you love them, make it weird. Who cares? Tell everybody how you feel. Everybody has regrets, I think across the board. But if Sofia were to walk through this door right now, physically walk in this door, besides hugging her and never letting her go, there is nothing that I need to tell her that she didn't already know. Nothing. And I find myself very lucky, blessed, whatever it is, to know that. She knows how I felt. That's what the relationship was. If my mom and dad walked in here today, I would want to tell them, you know what? Thank you guys for raising me to be the person that I was. I probably told them that in some sense, but I feel like there's stuff I could say to my mom and dad. I need to tell them. I hope my mom knows how much she affected me and how much I loved her. I hope my dad knows how, with Sofia, I don't have anything that I need to tell her. And that's a pretty cool, like people that have had spouses pass away after a fight. You've heard, oh, my husband and I got in a fight and he left mad and was in a car accident and died. Fuck, I can't imagine that. Not being able to say whatever you say. Now, that being said, you're still obviously are going to be talking to him, but I don't have to deal with that. I love the fact that she completely knows and I completely know. I know where she stood. I know what she thought. I know all that. So, in that sense, as much as I sit and look at my life and go, what the fuck? I also consider myself pretty lucky on a lot of levels to have gone through some of the stuff I've gone through and become who I am.
Okay. Anything else? Cool. Well, thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Other than you fucking going to make me cry in the middle of it, I was like, I thought I was going to be able to at least halfway make it home. Didn't even get that far.
Nope. Can't get away with that with me. All right. So.
Did I look good on those angles? I don't have a lot of chins hanging down into here. I look kind of swole. Are we good?
No, absolutely not.
Sure.